All right, welcome to the Sae Bae cast number 171 with Mod Sarnie. Mod Sarnie, how are we doing this fine morning, or I guess afternoon, evening for you at this point?
Yeah, definitely evening. I'm glad it's evening. I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, I'm doing good, mate. I'm doing good. I'm feeling motivated. I'm excited to be on. I didn't expect to be on, honestly. I think there are like plenty of other chain mods that are probably more interesting than me, but I appreciate the opportunity.
No, it's absolutely my pleasure. It's funny you say that because like first of all, there's like so many people I have not had on yet that I actually start like I have to not think about it too much because it actually stresses me out thinking of guests that clearly like, and I've been friends with them for, like I'm
Yeah.
talking specific content creators even and JMod still that I just haven't had on, haven't asked them to be on yet. And I'm like, ooh, like I wonder if they think that I don't like them or something, or like they're not like valued, like that is not the case at all. It's just I only do one a week generally, and it's like whatever I'm feeling for that week, I'll reach out to somebody, and that's kind of just how they go. So, but no,
I'm
you've been on the list actually. There's still that huge list that I'm trying to work through. I'm actually adding more names that I'm getting through them, so it's kind of
oh,
never ending.
okay. I mean, that's kind of good in terms of like how long you want to go on with this for, right? But I'm curious now. Who's like top? Give me your top three.
Oh
Who you want
no.
on?
Oh. Top three who I want to have on.
Yeah,
Ooh.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, I will say, like, I reached out publicly to Mod Ash. That was the only way I felt like I could have reached out to him. And just because, like, most J mods have all of their, like, private messaging blocked. Like, they're just for
Mm,
probably valid reasons, I'm imagining, just for all the
yeah.
people that will just reach out to them. So it makes perfect sense. But for me, I'm like, oh, I wish I could just privately reach out to somebody without, making a big fuss about it. So with Mod Ash, it's impossible to message him, and he's not even on Discord. So I'm like, okay, like, so publicly reached out, and he respectfully declined just because he's been super busy. But he said,
Mm.
it's still a potential for the future. So Mod Ash would be amazing. I gotta say, Andrew Gower would just be insane. Like that
Oh,
would he's definitely up there as well. Um,
especially with the recent news, like I feel like that's a great guest.
yes, his new what's his game called? Brighter Shores. Is that it?
Bright Shores, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't played it yet, but I'm knowing him. I mean, he loves games and he makes great games. So I haven't played it yet. I think I saw like one YouTube review of it, but haven't touched it myself. Have you?
No, no, I want to. I want to though. It looks. I am always curious, especially when someone's worked on like such a well-known franchise, and they go and do something else. That's always like a really key interest for me. Like I think the person that made Bioshock, they've now done their own thing. They moved away from Bioshock. It still feels very Bioshock-esque and looks very Bioshock-esque, but
Mm.
I'm always so curious to see what they've actually done with that sort of level of freedom.
Because it definitely feels like they go back to their roots in a sense. Like
Mm,
for Andrew Gower, that's how I imagine it. He made RuneScape, and then it turns into something just so much bigger than he probably ever anticipated, and it kind of gets out of his own control. So I'm pretty sure Brighter Shores he's worked on for like a decade. Am I wrong on that? I think I saw 10 years
I
or
mean,
something.
since I've started at Jagex, it's definitely been like murmurs throughout the whole time I've been here that he's been working on something. So,
That is
you
wild.
know, yeah.
We'll have to see because maybe RuneScape was his one. I mean, I can't really speak on this at all, so maybe I really do have to try out the game, give my own honest feedback. But maybe it was just a one hit wonder that RuneScape, just was in the time period it was released and everything. But surely, I think Andrew Gower is actually just a genius, and so I think his the way his brain works and game development just I feel like no matter what, he's gonna make a great game. So I gotta play it
yeah,
though. Gotta give it a try.
yeah. I think regardless, it warrants at least testing out, like
Hmm.
with Andrew's like past experience, and it's again being the one of the key founders and creators of RuneScape. Like, how can you not try that? You know?
Literally. Yep.
Who's the
Yep.
third then? Who's the
Oh,
third?
the third. There's a bunch. I think one of the people I would love to have on is someone like Link's Titan or something. Like
Ooh,
someone
okay.
that's just you've never really heard much about them. I think Lynx has published a few videos. Um, I think as well, like Iron Higer. I reached out to him. He was rank 1 Iron Man. And just like those kind of elusive sort of people that nobody really hears of, but everyone knows their name. I think that would be a really cool thing. So there's several of them, but some like high ranked player that nobody ever really hears from.
Okay. Okay. Yeah,
So
that's cool. That's really
yeah.
cool.
So let's, I guess, start off with a brief introduction of who you are. I mean, obviously, most people listening know you're a JMod. So I guess you can kind of go into how long you've been a JMod, what kind of got you into working at Jagex and all that.
I hope people know I'm a JMod. I
Yeah.
hope that's quite obvious for it, especially the picture I gave you. I feel like it's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
fairly obvious. But yeah, I have been at Jagex for nearly 4 years now. Uh, Community manager throughout that whole time. And I tell you what, it's been probably the most interesting job I've ever had. I'll tell you that much. It's uh, it's a really, really fascinating game to be a part of, honestly. Like, I don't know if you want me to like go through how I got into Jagex
Yeah,
or
let's hear it. I want to hear it.
all right. I don't know, like I think like especially most people at Jagex now and that have been at Jagex definitely have been like involved in RuneScape and some element playing back in the day. So I've always had that like affinity towards RuneScape as a whole. Even got my dad playing into it just because, I wanted some membership and there was no way to like get that exclusively from like just asking for it. So I was like, I'd tease it on the PC when I was playing and I'd be like, oh, you want to come over here and help me with this? And he'd be like, yeah. And then eventually he started playing and then just got me and my sister memberships. That was quite nice back in
Oh,
what, like
that's
2004,
legendary.
5.
I wish my
So
dad played, but yeah.
well, my dad still plays. He's on RuneScape, normal RuneScape, and he's got the same account he had that he created back in 2004,
Wow.
which is wild. My sister's fallen off of it, but I've obviously like come back and forth with it. Um, and then around COVID time, so like played on and off through the years, and then it came to like COVID, and I was at a job that I'd just been let go from another job before that hand. Like the whole company just went like bankrupt basically, and everybody got let go. So I found a different job, and I was like, okay, this is quite cool, but it just didn't quite meet my expectations. And then COVID happened, and it was like, what am I doing right now? Is this really where I want to be? Like I was doing social media management for all the jobs previously to Jagex.
Mm.
So I've got like 5-6 years experience in that. And then I was like browsing around, saw a job for Jagex, community manager for Old School, and I'd actually seen one like 3 or 4 years prior. But because I'm like a through and through London boy, if you couldn't tell from my accent, and like I've been like harbored by London, and like I didn't back in the day, especially, I didn't want to go anywhere else. Like London was my place. That's where I'm from. I don't really want to go anywhere else. This is where I'm going to live for the rest of my life. Obviously, very different now. Um, so I thought Cambridge was too far, even though it's a 45-minute direct train from London. That to me back then was way, way too far. Because I think before I met my wife, the furthest north I had been was Wales, which is in the west of the UK. So that gives you an idea of like how much of the north I had not explored
Mm.
up until that point. And I just sort of wrote it off at first. I was still looking around for jobs, and I spoke to my wife, and she was like, "Nah, her mum used to work in Cambridge, made the commute doable. Like there are ways around it." So I thought I'd apply, and I was like, "Yeah, you know what? Let's do it. Let's do it." And I got a call back, I think, 2 weeks later, saying they wanted an interview, and I was interviewed by the glorious Mod Sween,
Legend.
a legend indeed, who was lead community manager at the time, and this was when Mod Acorn was still there.
Oh yeah, I
Um,
miss her.
yes, yes, we'll do. She's still around. She's still around doing her own thing. I see her in the sort of like we have a little um, Discord for like J mods, like past and present that
Oh,
hang out
that's
and
cool. That's really cool.
yeah. So it's really nice just to like have access to people and just keep in touch with them, which is really
Hmm.
lovely. Got interviewed by them, and then got a call a week later saying, "Oh yeah, you know what? We wanna take you through to the second stage, which was like, as me, I was so gassed just hearing like I'd got through the initial interview, and I was onto the second stage, and it was like, okay, you want to do this task now? We've got Group Iron Man coming up. What would you do in terms of like a social strategy for it? So I know I shouldn't have been doing this, but I didn't really do that much work for my real job that whole week. And just focused on this like mad big presentation on like, here's exactly what I want to do. Here's all the pieces you're missing out on. Here's all the research I've done, etc. And I sent that off after like a week of solid working and sort of like tweaking it and stuff. And then I didn't hear anything for like 3 weeks.
Oh no! So you were just
And
like, it's over.
yeah, and I went down to my wife when we were living back in London, and I have like I'm quite like a energetic individual. Like I've got a lot of energy in me,
Mm-hmm.
but not a lot of nerves. So I went down to my wife. I think it was like 2 weeks in. I was like, I am feeling horrible. Like I'm sweating. My stomach hurts. I'm like shaking. I don't know what's wrong with me. She's like, you're nervous, mate. Like you've got nerves. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, yeah, you're nervous. This is what nervous feels like. I was like, no, I don't like it. I don't want this feeling. Get it out of me.
The first time
Like,
you've ever felt it.
I've definitely, yeah, it's like I've definitely felt in the past, but it's definitely bubbled up when
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
younger and like nervous energy.
So you're a pretty laid back guy, I'm imagining, and then
Laid back is probably an understatement,
okay.
I'd say.
So
Like,
very occasionally you'll have some nervous break where you just realize like, oh my gosh, like what is actually happening? That's
yeah,
funny.
I think I was more nervous waiting for this than I was like proposing to my wife
Oh
or at
my.
my own wedding. Like my own wedding, when I was like before my wife and got there and we did the ceremony, I was just like chilling out, speaking to people, running around. I was gonna go to the pub beforehand with my granddad, just have a couple drinks
Yeah,
and just chill out. And everyone's like, "Are you okay? You nervous?" Like, why have I got to be nervous? She's already said yes. Like, we're just making it like official now, you know?
that is
What's there to be
awesome.
nervous about? So yeah, so like feeling like that is like horrible. So I think it was maybe a week after that conversation happened, I got a call saying, "Really, really sorry. It's been so long, but we really liked your presentation and stuff. We want to invite you to a third interview." And I was like, "Oh, okay, this is big. This could be it." And the recruiter I was speaking to at the time was like, "Listen, I shouldn't tell you this, but you're definitely like pinching ahead as the favorite." I was
Ooh,
like, "Oh," and maybe that was the wrong thing for him to say, but that's like gave me so much confidence and like,
mm-hmm.
okay, I have this, but also such a scary thought to think like, if I let this slip now, what have I done? Like,
Yep. I wonder if
so
they tell that to like everybody or if they really meant it because I.
I mean, from what when I spoke to Sween afterwards,
Mm-hmm.
like we had like casual chats about stuff. He had said, yeah, they mentioned that I was the one in the running for it.
Oh hell yeah, nice.
So it was like, okay, cool. Obviously, at the time, I didn't know that. So I went into an interview with like Sween again, and then like I think Kieran was in there, and Lenny was in there, and then some other members of the team that were like quite high up. And I had to sort of like sell myself again. And then I had a conversation with my wife like a week later while I was waiting. I was like, listen, I don't like my current job and I think I need to quit regardless of what happens. And I know that's not great, but I felt like I need to do it. We had a big conversation and it was like, you know what? I support you. Cool. If you need to quit and you don't get this job, then we'll sort it out. And I was like, that's like I'm probably going to shout out about my wife in throughout this if personal questions come up, but she's like the best thing that's ever happened to me. She's definitely my like number one support and just like my anchor at the same time, which like so much respect for her.
That's amazing.
Um, Thank you. And then she was like, "Yeah, cool." And then the next day, I know we was living at my wife's dad's house at the time, so we was all in the. I got a call from the recruiter about 10, and they were like, "Going to call you back at 12. They're just making the final decisions now, and then we'll let you know from there." For the next 2 hours, I was sort of like pacing up and down the kitchen for 2 hours, just like, "Oh, what if it goes well and I get the job, and where does this go?" And then the next minute, but if I don't get the job, what do I do then? I'm going to be out of a job, and what do I do? But obviously, as we're sitting here now, got the job, which was just crazy, just crazy. I didn't realize it at first. They sort of said it, and I was like, but what does that mean? And they were like, no, you've got the job. There's no, you know, if you want the job, it's there. And I was like, oh, I've got the job. Okay, cool. And just really keeping like calm composure on the phone. And then when I put the phone down, I just turned to my wife and her dad and were like, I'm going to work for Jagex. And they were like, what? And just like, you know.
That is so cool. And they all know about the game too.
Yeah. Like my wife's played it a little bit. Like she plays it more now because we've got a little game together, which is nice.
Oh yeah, I heard. I
Um,
heard from Goblin that you guys play one.
yes. Me, Goblin, his partner, and my wife have a little game on the go now,
That
which is
is
nice.
sick. That's actually
Um,
sick.
yeah. So it's After that, it was like whoa, and then it was at the start. It was a bit weird because it's COVID still, and there's still a lot of restrictions in place. I'm in London. The office is obviously in Cambridge. So I think the first 6 months, oh, yeah, I think the first 8 months actually, I'd never went into the office, maybe even longer than that. And in that time, I ended up moving to Cambridge, which was also my wife's doing because I said, oh, you know, we had to move out to her dad's place, and we were looking at places in London, but London's crazy. It's mad expensive. If you hadn't already heard, Cambridge isn't better, by the way. I will say Cambridge is like the third most expensive city or the second most expensive city. So it wasn't that different, but at least you could get like a bit better than you could in London. But we got really lucky with the place we're in now. Like so lucky, just came at the right time, and we were like, yeah, let's do that.
Did you feel like the job was as you imagined or better even?
I'd probably say better. I didn't really know what to expect. I think this was the weirdest thing. I knew I've always wanted to work in gaming. I just didn't know how I was going to get there. I was studying like I was going to go to Wales uni to study concept art. But because I was earning money in retail, which was like minimum wage, by the way, I was like, oh, this is great. Why do I need uni? I'm earning money now.
Mm-hmm.
So I just like bin that aside. So I didn't really have like that much expectations. It was in gaming, you know, it was an IP that I knew, and like I held very close to my heart because like, I've got so many memories with the game, or just the IP in general. So I didn't really know what to expect, and then adding COVID on top of that was a bit surreal because like you start at a place like I think most expectations going into a job is like you walk in the fresh faced new employee into the big office and it seems bigger than it is and everything seems scary and daunting and also exciting. But I didn't have that. My first day was like, yeah, we've sent you a laptop, just sort yourself out on that, and then we'll hop on a Zoom call at like I don't know 9:30, and then we'll go through what you want to do this week and so forth. And I was like, oh, okay. Just on my like crappy little desk chair. Like it wasn't even an actual desk chair. It was like this like shit little, almost broken chair that I had in my quote unquote office, which also was just like a single bed that was like shoved into the side of the corner, and then my like crap like desk with my PC on it and my monitor that I still have that's just like a tiny HD TV. It was like the worst setup going, but
That
I
rem-
made it work.
that reminds me of when I first started streaming. My first chair was a lawn chair because I had just moved in with my brother and we had no furniture. So I just had a lawn chair and just sinking into the chair, and I could barely put my hands up on the desk, and the desk was just a piece of shit. Yeah.
I just don't, looking back, I just don't know how I didn't just buy a chair, even if it was like a cheap office chair from like
Uh-huh.
IKEA for like 40 quid or whatever.
Yeah.
I had 40 quid spare that I could probably have found for a nicer chair, but instead I had this like crappy one leg was like so wonky. I had to like push it in every day before I started work
They like
just
start
because
the
it.
they like start the Zoom call and they're like, "Oh yeah, this thing. I don't know if it's gonna work, man. Like, you're looking kind of homeless."
So
Yeah.
yeah, it was just like no camera, no cameras needed.
Oh,
Just
okay, okay.
I'm
Just
here,
audio.
I'm
I
here.
see. I see.
Yeah, I could have turned my camera. I think I did turn my camera on for my like. Always have like little Zoom meetings for when a new joiner starts,
Mm-hmm.
and then everyone like doesn't grill them, but everyone goes around introducing themselves. And I'm sure people were looking at because the walls behind me were like cracked and paint was coming off and stuff, and like yeah, it didn't look great. I will say that. Very fortunate to my wife's dad for letting us stay there. Like, but again, as like someone looking outward in would
Mm-hmm.
probably look at that and gone like, what the hell is this guy doing?
Yeah.
What?
See, I've always,
um,
at least in like recent Q&As in the past couple of years, I feel like your background's always looked pretty nice. So you saying that, I guess everyone starts at somewhere, So
yeah, the vision's always been there. The background I've got now is always sort of how I wanted my room slash office or whatever
mm,
I was going to be using. So it was when we actually moved in here, and like my dad and mum came down and were like helping me out, and I was sort of like trying to visualize how I'd like make the room. I didn't even consider like I'd always talked about having this like sort of like circular setup behind me, which looked really cool. And I was trying to like organize it in a weird way. And my dad was just like, "What are you doing, bruv? Like, just do what you've wanted to do for the last like 10 years and have this like circular thing." I was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I should do that."
that is
Um,
funny.
so now, yeah, I think it's like quite a like little staple. It's got my little oddest shelf on there, so um, it's nice having that sort of scene while I'm on webcam at home, which is nice.
So
But yeah,
when did you start doing the Q&As? Because I feel like you've been leading them for quite a while.
oh, good question. I think I did my first Q&A. I want to say it was 2021. Don't hold me to that, and someone will probably find an earlier one, but I'm pretty sure it was like early 2021, and it was just a like introduction to me, and then like a small game update. I think it was, or something like that. Um,
How are the nerves there? Because I feel like if had you, I mean, I'm assuming you had watched Q&As prior
yeah,
to that and kind of seeing like the new mods get kind of grilled sometimes by the community. So it's like,
yeah.
yeah,
I had been told about like Aiza was back at the point I had returned, and I think he had gone on stream before I had,
yeah.
like when he came back, just because he was like already known. And he was telling me about when he first went on stream and said I can't remember what it was he said, but he said something like really out there, and like the community just turn on him instantly.
Yeah.
Um, so I was a bit apprehensive, but I think I said this to Sween, like I have to do it. I just have to do it. There's no way I can't do this. It needs to be a part of my job. So
Mm-hmm.
I've got to just like shut everything else down around me and just focus on this. And hopefully I won't say anything stupid.
Yeah.
And then I don't think I did, to be fair. I think I kept like quite a measured composure. I don't know. Someone could probably watch it back and see something else. But I think I did my first stream okay, and then I know I appeared on the couch for the first time for um oh, was it Dead Man or was it something? It was like a not a summit. It was like, oh, I think it was a birthday live stream.
Mm.
I think I appeared on the sofas for the first time, which was really cool. Like actually being on the sofas is
Oh
like
yeah.
so
Iconic.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not only iconic, but you haven't got that shitty delay that you have
Mm.
with all that I've learned over the years to manage and just give it like extra second or two to guests that are on. Um, but yeah, being in person, like I'm sure you've seen streams that like that. I think the most recent community stream we did when it was like me, Goblin, Light, and Aiza and Sween. That was like one of the most fun streams because it's just like us hanging out and just like messing around, which is like the best kind of streams for me, honestly.
Totally. Yeah.
But in terms of like taking them over, like I think we've got there's been some like shift in focus in the CM team, especially like obviously Aiza's lead. He's got a lot on his plate in terms of like juggling different bits. Light is very focused on a particular project at the moment, so she doesn't have too much time outside of that project because it
Mm-hmm.
is massive. I think I'm pretty sure I can say because it's well known. Say she's on sailing,
Mm-hmm.
so that is obviously probably the biggest project we've ever done. So it needs that sort of like catered to approach from us at least. And then Goblin is very like feedback focused. So I think Q&As are definitely like it's not that he doesn't want to be on them, but it's just more of like he definitely thrives more so like responding quickly to things like on Reddit and Twitter, etc. And it
He's
definitely shows.
he's really good at that. I mean, and I think I had already known this, but he literally reached out to me this morning after I made a ramble on the updated project rebalance, and he just he always kind of like reaches out here and there, and he's like, hey, like excited for the ramble because he wants to hear it. And I didn't realize, because I said some good things about the recent blogs. Like the blog posts have been so just well written. I feel like they're so transparent. And then Goblin's like, yeah, like I write majority of them, like those project rebalance blogs and stuff. So I had to give him a bunch of credit there. Like he's killing it, and he's so good, like you said, at just responding quickly and precisely. And he doesn't have strong biases either toward like certain things. Like, he remains very neutral and just centered, and it's really nice having him on the team.
I mean, he does have strong biases. I can tell you that as
well, he
someone
doesn't
who
make
knows
them
it.
known in the public. He listens to everything, and that's
Yeah,
what's important, I think, because everyone has their biases clearly.
yeah, exactly. That is I'm very envious of Goblin just in general. Like I am very privileged to know him, not just as like a colleague, but like a close friend at this point. Like we are at the point of mates where we've got the GIM, right? So that's like one level, but then we also like have co-parented the RuneScape board game. Like we went 50-50 on that whole set together, and we try and find time at least once a week to go around to their house and and just play the game or just chill out. Like it's so nice.
That is sick.
He's extremely smart as well. He is smarter than he gives credit for, I think, and I'm very envious of his level of like just as a CM. He's like probably one of the best we've had. Like that's not trying to flame any other CMs we've had or have, but he's definitely, in terms of his communication, like, and transparency, just completely up there.
He's great. And he's always popping in streams and stuff, and is always kind of seeing what's going on in the community. He stays very active, which I know like it seems like it would be easy, but over years, especially when you're working and then trying to really try to stay in touch with the community, like that becomes a lot of work ultimately.
Yeah.
And he ends up doing it really nicely. So yeah, I think he's great.
He's generally so passionate about the game as well, like so incredibly passionate about the game. So I think that helps in his desire to want to, not only do right for what's good for the game, but the players as well. So it's like a nice balance for him to just jump into, and he's already got that mindset. So I think it's just easy for him,
That's what I've actually noticed about all the J mods lately. I feel like there's maybe there's like a few I could think of. I won't name names, but for the most part, like the J mods. I mean, because I even got to meet Aiza and Sween in Las Vegas late last year at TwitchCon, and you just see them, and like they're just like they're hanging out with the old school players. They know all about them. They're super passionate about what's going on at Jagex, and just the fact that they radiate that passion when you even meet them in person. And every single person I see on the couch, every single person I see on the Q&As and stuff, like they all seem very excited about what's happening at Jagex and what's happening at Old School. So like that is always very nice to see, because the last thing you want to see is them just kind of sitting there on the couch like, okay, like this is just a job. It's never felt that way in years. So it's great.
I think it's one of the core strengths of our team, especially Old School, of like that passion coming across is like first and foremost, and not a passion for like the game to succeed because we work for the company, but for the game to succeed because it's important to us and the players to do that. And like I would say, like my game knowledge is definitely more limited than probably some other people on the team, especially when I first came into the role. But like over the years that's developed. But that passion, I think, is the bit that got me over the line in terms of getting the job, because like my passion probably came through the most. I hope. I mean, I can only assume this, right? But my passion was definitely like the largest driving force when I was going into them interviews. Like, I want this game to succeed because it's a very special thing for a lot of people, and we need to continue to do that, right?
Yep.
So even if I don't have the knowledge of like specific like DPS calcs on using a certain setup on a certain boss, or a lot of the niche areas of PvP, my hope is, and I think it's the same with a lot of the team, to do the best for what's best for the game and the players. So I'm glad that's come across. I'm really
Yeah.
glad that's come across.
No, you even brought up that point of like, you might not feel like you know much about the game. I will just say this right now. This could be not correct, but it feels like the J mods actually have a lot clearer and broader vision of the game than vast majority of players, because the team, like literally, like especially the community managers, like you guys need to know all the niches of RuneScape in a way. Like you need to know what affects different communities. You can't know every little detail. Like,
Hmm.
because me as a player, like I'm obsessed with my little niche, and I know a lot of random stuff that's not really pertinent to anything else. But I don't know about, like, let's say the UIM community or the PK community that much. And so I feel like community managers, and especially just like the team as a whole, it just feels like you guys actually are way more aware than the average player, and even beyond the average player. I mean, you have a broader vision of what's really going on, and I think that's really important for the game's health. And so, but you said you didn't know much at the beginning. What led to you knowing more about the game's communities and just getting more game knowledge, I guess, over time? Was that like actively studying, or was that just like jumping in and just working hard and just kind of figuring things out as you go, especially leading Q&As? I'm imagining those questions, you kind of have to know a little bit about what you're asking or what you're reading. So how did that
Yeah,
go?
yeah, it's definitely been a bit of both. I'd say, like, definitely jumping back into the game has helped, and just sort of doing things that maybe I wouldn't necessarily have done before as a player, has been a step in the right direction. But I think a lot of it has come from, I felt, and I probably still think there's definitely a lot of like imposter syndrome that happens with this role, especially for me. I don't know much about other J mods, but in particular for me.
Mm,
So at the start, I definitely felt like I was more in the background as a CM than I was like outwardly facing. Like I probably am more so now.
mm,
Um, so I think part of that was just like learning things as as we went through like a game update or a new piece of content, picking things up that would then like fill up my mind bank or whatever you want to call it, of
yeah.
just like information that's now like grown and overflown, and now I need a second mind bank to start putting new stuff in.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say I definitely don't know everything, because if you know everything about this game, I want to know how you know that, because there is some level of brain power that I need a piece of.
Mod Ash, you got to
Uh,
ask him. He knows everything.
yeah,
He knows
yeah,
everything.
exactly. I want a little bit of Modash's brain, just give me a little bit more, just a little bit more. That's all I'm
Yeah,
asking for.
yeah.
So yeah, definitely a combination, I'd say. And then I think I've, over the years, because I've proven myself in like certain areas, I've definitely been given more responsibilities, which has helped. So like Varlamore was like a big, I was the CM of that, and I am now the CM of Varlamore Part 2. So everything like that comes around that is sort of like run through me, or I am the sort of back and forth between a lot of that. That's not to
Mm,
say like other CMs and team members don't jump in on conversations and stuff, but there's definitely a lot of like, Aiza is a very fair and good boss. A great CM, great lead CM. But in terms of like a boss, he's really good, and he's just like, right, you have this project, and it is yours to do with what you want. And then he just lets you run with it, as long as you're doing like the tick box list of like making sure these bits are polled and these bits are spoken about, and there's feedback on this bit. Then he sort of leaves you to do what you want to do, which is really nice. So that confidence has definitely grown over the years, which has helped me like learn more or want to get more involved with things, especially like responding to players. I think the last year has definitely been like my strongest year, quote
hmm.
unquote. I want to say, as a J mod, both professionally and personally. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I see it as well. And I think just starting off, I mean, imposter syndrome is a universal thing. I still deal with it
Mm.
all the time. And yeah, with every even the aspects where you'd think like, okay, you played this game 20,000 hours, maybe you know a little bit, but I still feel like I'm kind of newbie at things. But I think it is important. And I think you did it really well with like kind of remaining somewhat hesitant toward the beginning and just not making too strong of, I don't know, stances on certain things that could
Yeah.
kind of like be, because we see it with JMods. I mean, it's like as soon as you make a strong accusation or something like that, some community is going to freak out. And you've remained very neutral, and I feel like in the community's eyes, I mean, you you kind of were in your good place, and now you can kind of blossom from here because you know you've been around for long enough. So I think you did it in a really like natural, healthy way. So
Thank you.
bravo. Yeah.
I hope so. I hope so. Yeah, there's definitely been an element of fear in that. I'm not gonna lie.
Mm-hmm.
This is
Yeah.
a scary place to be, a
It
scary place to
is.
work.
It is.
And not just in terms of like how feedback is done, but like the breadth of stuff there is to know. Like you spoke
Yeah.
about it before. Like there's so many elements to this game, and there's like the other day we obviously yesterday we had the little Discord stages for the Herblore activity, and we was talking about some random stuff. I can't even remember what we were talking about, but I was like, "Oh, yo, did you know that the sweepers in Varrock actually sweep up ash?" And like that is like a little piece of information that I would have never figured out like by myself. But it's just like another just tiny, even though it's like a really tiny part of the game, it's just so interesting. There are I would say millions of things like that,
Wait,
like
wait,
from
wait,
big to small.
wait. You're talking like those little NPC sweepers. If you put an ash on the ground or like a fire was made or something, they sweep it and it disappears?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
What? That is wild.
we were lighting fires on the Gim in Varrock, doing like from like the east side, and I can't remember. We was in a call, and we saw the sweeper go over and the ash disappear, and I was like, am I tripping, or did that guy just like get rid of the ash? And Goblin was like, let me try again and put some more ash down, and the guy come over and like yeeted it out. This is crazy.
That so they don't target the ash, but if they walk under it organically, then it disappears. Is that what's happening, or are they
From
actually targeting the ash?
No, from what I remember, they were specifically put in to clean up ash because like obviously that Varrock strip has been
Yeah.
notoriously used for lighting fires over the years. And I think it got to a point where there was so much ash on the screen that it was like affecting people's gameplay. So someone was like, okay, let's put some sweepers in and start clearing out the ash, which is crazy. It's crazy.
That is amazing. That is crazy. Yeah. No, and you're right. There are so many things. I don't know if you follow the wiki page on Twitter, if you're ever like
Hmm.
looking at, but they always post some just crazy fun fact that's just wild. I mean, the the craziest thing. I mean, there was multiple crazy things. One was the Gorax drop table that
Yep.
it's been bugged for like just 2 decades, basically.
It's the spaghetti code that we like love and play, and there's even things that still haven't been found in this
Yes.
game that I have been told about, and I still don't know like the ins and outs of how to like discover it. But there are things that players still haven't found out, and probably still won't for a long time. And it is incredible to see like a game like this that is just still, even after like we're probably the most efficient based or one of the most efficient based games out there,
Hmm.
and even after all that time, there's still things out there that people don't know. Is like incredibly, it's just so cool.
It's wild. And
Mm.
one of the really cool things, because I remember having sort of talked about, because I'm a player that loves Easter eggs. So just
Yeah,
introduce Easter. You don't need to tell the community. Just throw in stuff that you know that the team can make a judgment call if this is like broken or not. But for the most part, throwing in Easter eggs is never something that's that big of an integrity deal. But
exactly.
one of the cool things was, you're searching through drawers and it says you find nothing interesting. You're searching for a crate or whatever. I think it was drawers, and then you can just find a red topaz randomly
Yeah,
like that. That's it. That's amazing. Like who was the one that just stood there clicking that thing repeatedly? Just keep searching, keep searching.
it it's so funny to me, and these conversations like in the team happen all the time. Like these stupid little Easter eggs that's even like either an in office or in team joke or just something that's like relevant because of what we're working on or something. It's just like they happen so often. Like, oh, can we just slip this in here? Like, yeah, why not? What, it's going to take like a tiny little bit of extra dev work. cool, we'll slip it in. Like I didn't know until Scarius came out that there was a Easter egg reference to Cannon Rat on the pet when you like use a cannon base with it, which
Oh,
is
really?
so nice. Yeah, for me, like especially like being like the member of that Game Jam project and seeing that was like, oh, that's so nice.
That is so cool. Yeah, I think it's awesome. I'm sure. Well, I already saw a few Easter eggs coming out from Varlamore, and
Mm,
I think there was also something you guys made a blog post of it talking about just allowing you guys the freedom to make fun quests like that frog quest.
yeah,
Just the little
yeah.
things like that that don't make a big impact on the game but are just cute and quirky. I think that's also just amazing.
I will say, anyone that hasn't done that quest and is listening, go and do it because it is honestly by far one of the most old school quests out there. Don't please read the dialogue; it is fantastic. And the fact that I, as CM on Varlamore, didn't know that quest was going to be part of the content until on launch. I was like, "Oh, there are 4 quests. Where did we get the 4th one from?" It's like, "Oh yeah, we just added it in," and we're like, "Oh, oh, okay, cool."
It's amazing. It was amazing. I read it on stream. It was great.
It's so good. It's so good. I will say Ed and Lenny, I think, were made that quest. That those two as a working pair, insane, insane. They bounce off each other so well, and they just know so many things. It's incredible.
Yeah, it was great. So you let's I want to ask you about just your own sort of journey with RuneScape. So especially just lately. So you have a group Iron Man team with your
Yes.
wife, Goblin, and his partner. And do you play any other accounts? Like, did you used to play like a main or something? Like, how is that with Old School at least?
Yeah, I've still got my main. I've still got the same username that I had from what 2004 when I started.
Oh wow.
So I still have that username. I still have like the RS3 account and all the stats there, and then I use the same username when I think when mobile came out for old school. I then reused that, and I was like, oh cool, I can play on this account, sweet. So yeah, I used that. I played a lot when I was obviously. I think everybody says this, but it is the same for most people. It's like back in the day, you know, what was I in like year 4 or year 5 in primary school, and someone mentions, "Oh, there's this game on Miniclip. You know,
Yep.
you should play it." And it's like, okay, cool. And then you get into finding out about proxy servers and then using them to play RuneScape in school and sharing around those links. Even like in primary school, we were doing that, and then that just evolved into just doing absolutely anything I want into the game. Like I will say this as a player, just throughout the years, I'm probably one of the most inefficient players going. I just do things, even if they make no sense. I'm just like, yeah, I'll go and do that now. That's fine. It doesn't matter if it's going to be like 2 extra hours of my game time. Like, yeah, I'll just do it. It doesn't matter.
That's the real way to play. That's when that's peak enjoyment, by the way. If you just always resist that, it's like that natural urge to like want to be efficient. Well, it's natural for some people. But if you
Yeah.
just resist it and see the game as a game and continually just have that in the back of your mind, like I'm just trying to enjoy myself, that's the most optimal way to play.
Exactly.
So,
And I don't think it's a bad way to play if you want to be super efficient, because if that's how you enjoy the game, then
mm-hmm,
sick.
mm-hmm,
Like it's the beauty of a sandbox MMO, right? Is like you play how you want to play, and that
yep.
is it. So yeah, I played a lot. I definitely did some probably naughty things back in the day. I know I lured some people into the little chaos temple
Oh
before the
no.
wilderness ditch,
Oh no.
and used to like shut the doors on them. I would be like, drink the potion, drink the wine, and you'll get like double XP for an hour. And then when they take it, they get attacked by the druids, and I constantly spam the door shut until they died and take all their items.
Okay,
Uh,
here's the question though. Did it happen to you first? Because
no,
oh wow, that is impressive. See, for most people, we were the victims initially, and we turned into the abusers. We're just like we need to get our vengeance off, basically. So we got to like do the same thing to others. So you actually just were the original initiator. Did you see somebody else like have it happen to them, and then you got the idea, or was this
I
like purely cynical? Like, no, I'm just like out there trying to scam everybody.
I went and took the jar, like the jug, sorry, and I
Yeah.
got attacked and I got out and I was like, yo,
Oh,
that
I
was
see. I see.
scary. And I was like, I wonder how many people know about this. So I used to just like roam around and just start chatting with someone and be like, oh, yo, there's this place I can, I shouldn't really tell you about this, but there's a double XP little wine that you can grab from this place that's not really known about. Follow me. And
Oh
then I
no.
think a lot of people will be like, "You're going to take me to the wilderness." I was like, "I promise, we're not going. We're going to be going near the wilderness. We're not crossing the ditch. I promise." And they were like, "Well, I don't think it was even a ditch back then.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think
Just
you
there's.
crossed." Yeah, and I said, "No, we're going to be near the wilderness. But we're not going into the wilderness." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And I'd take them out to like that jug, steal it, and then run out because they will attack you. And they were like, "Okay, cool, cool, cool." And then as soon as they took it and started attacking, that would when I'd be on the perfect tick clicks for
Oh
shutting that
no.
door.
Savage. Oh my god.
Yeah, that was the only naughty thing I did. To be fair, that was like the one naughty. But I'm a little chaos gremlin. I love like causing chaos where I
Yeah, yeah,
can,
yeah.
especially in games. Like if I'm playing Lethal Company, I will be the one that is mucking things up for everyone else. Like you take a little, what's the little generators, and I like quote unquote sacrifice them to the generator lord by chucking them into the depths,
Uh-huh.
without anyone seeing me. And then when they get back on the ship, they're like, "Where are all the generators gone?" And I just say nothing.
I just like I'm still for some reason I can still completely visualize, 2004, walking the streets of Varrock. You're at the West Bank. The West Bank has all the people doing the bank sales, and there's like the
Yep.
specific spots, people selling law runes, people selling lobbies, people selling rares. And this is like pre-GE days. And then you go over to like the East Bank. The East Bank, there'd be a few sales, and then there'd be like, the E-daters upstairs in that East Bank. And then there would be always there would be people outside of the bank. Well, first of all, there was a bunch of people running Pure Essence, or the Rune
Yep.
Essence, I should say. And
Yep.
then you'd have people saying, "Oh my God! Like if you type your password in backward, it asterisks it out. Like check this out, guys." And you just see other people like saying just the stupidest stuff, like trimming armor or cutting gems for free. Just a bunch of like the typical scams, and they're all like 8-year-olds typing this stuff. Like they've been scammed before, and it's just ridden with this toxicity sort of, and the whole like just scams everywhere sort of, and it was just really just a free-for-all zone of people just spamming the most random stuff. and
I mean,
and
look.
and it was lawless. I mean, you are dealing with a bunch of 10-year-olds. I mean, it was literally, if you were old enough, if you were a teenager back then, you could take advantage and make bank. I mean, you just could.
It was a wild time, I will say. I'm glad I didn't go to the lengths of like ruining anyone's like account or stealing that. Like I don't think I've ever done anything like that because that is like too far for me. But if I can cause chaos
Hmm.
inside of the game, then I will try and do that
Yep.
like as much as possible.
Because it's fun.
Um,
It's
it's
just,
fun.
yeah.
Yeah, like you can't do that. You can still cause chaos in the game now. I feel like there's still ways of like just like trolling. Like I think the little I can't. It's a dual disc. It's a dual disc. The dual disc when we put that into the game, that was really fun. Just seeing people get lobbed cards in their face, like just running around the GE was just like that is my level of chaos, and I love that.
Now, did you ever get scammed as a kid?
No, no,
Really?
I
That is
yeah.
impressive.
I felt like I felt like there were times I probably could have been scammed, um, but I would always check with my dad. I'd be like, "Hey, this guy's just said, like, they want to trim my armor. Have you got trimmed armor? Have you done that?" And he'd be like, "Let me have a look." And he'd come back maybe like 5 minutes later. He'd like jump on the PC, and I'd be like, "I'll be right back." And then he'd be like, "I don't think that's a thing. Don't trust them." And I'd be like, "Okay, cool." And
Wow.
then I would,
See, most kids didn't have a dad that would look out for them. We were all on our own. We were lone wolves out there just getting scammed left and right, and just but the good thing is it's such a low risk, like low stakes sort of
yes,
getting scammed. So you deal with all of it, cuz I mean I literally had a friend whose dad was falling for those basic internet scams as a
oh
kid. You know
no,
when like there would be a pop up that says you just won $10,000, Like, I mean,
Yeah.
just the most egregious example of like this is just a clear scam. Like, I remember my friend's dad was falling for that kind of stuff on the internet because he's just like his first kind of experience on the internet. He just got a computer, home computer, and he's just like, oh my god, like I think I just won $10,000. Like this is crazy. Like just like a full grown man. And so I'm glad as a kid we got to deal with all that nonsense early, and we just like, okay, every single thing that's too good to be true is too good to be true.
Yeah, I learned that. My parents taught me that anyway.
That's
Just like it
good.
was like quite like a staple. Like don't trust everything you see or people tell you. Like go out and do your own little bit of research, or just like take the time and think about is that right? Is that really sound right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I it feels bad to laugh, but at the same time, like if you're on the PC back in the day, I know it's all new, and a thing pops up to say you've won £10,000, and you don't go, why has that popped up? Where's that come from? Like, I don't think you should be on the internet, man. I don't think you should have a computer.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I mean those were the real early days where people were just kind of. I mean, my friends like they just got a home computer. They just weren't
yeah,
on the internet, So they think it's a brand new thing, and winning is like, yay, we just won. Like I don't know how it happened, but we'll take it.
yeah. I think it's a bit different if you were using LimeWire back in the day. I'm probably going back now. Using LimeWire back
I
in the day to
remember
get some
that.
music,
Yep.
and then you download a virus and you're like, oh shit, what have I done? Oh no, the PC's bricking it now. Oh no.
See, that
That's
is
like
yeah. No, go for it.
that's like more acceptable because like I think you wouldn't have known as much. But yeah, I think there's different levels of it to be like, should you be on here? Should you really be on here?
Yeah, you have to learn from the experiences. I feel like, and being young enough where I was like, I learned a lot of things, especially when it comes to like computer viruses and just downloading random stuff. I
Yeah.
spent so much time experimenting with all that crap when I was just a
Hmm.
kid that I just learned so many lessons all in like this bulk package from like ages 9 to like 12. So I don't know. There's
Yeah.
just so many lessons learned, and for people that were discovering technology in their 30s and 40s, I feel like, I mean, because you see old people, seniors and stuff that are getting scammed, like still with like the telemarketing calls and stuff like that. That is actually like the saddest stuff to see. I read maybe it was something on Reddit or something like that. Like some woman had given like tens of thousands of dollars to like just some person on the phone, basically like claiming it was like important to pay this stuff for their kid or something like that. And this old like 80-year-old lady's just giving tens of thousands of dollars to this guy, this scammer, basically. And it's just the saddest thing ever because they didn't grow up in that time. They just
Yeah.
I
And
don't know.
and
There's so many scams nowadays.
I think especially for older people, there's definitely like a vulnerability level as well. Like
It
they've probably
is.
not got as many people around, and maybe they just want even a conversation, and
Yeah.
even maybe there's something in the back of their mind that's like, this can't be right. This isn't good to be true. But because maybe they're a bit lonely, that sort of like loosens up a bit, and they sort of maybe like try and push that aside, which I think is like horrible. I watched like so much of like Kit Bogger's stuff, and like watch Jim Browning's videos from time to time. Like the amount of people that can just be like taken advantage of is like
Yep.
insanely incredible.
It is. And I mean, we also just have human brains. I mean, our brains are
Mm.
not, I mean, we are all like vulnerable to getting taken advantage of and getting
Oh
manipulated
yeah,
and stuff. So it's not just certain people, it's everyone.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Um, RuneScape stuff. Maybe I should jump back on.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
go into it.
yeah, and then I think I was like on. I played like fairly consistently up until EOC, I think it was, and even into EOC, I was like, I don't really like this, but I'll play it. Dungeoneering, I definitely really enjoyed when that came out. I love Dungeoneering. Um, I think it's still, again, I wouldn't have it as a skill for old school, but I definitely think some Dungeoneering elements would be cool. I know we have stuff like James and Zarek that sort of does that, um, but that would be nice.
Hmm.
But yeah, and then I sort of came away, and then when mobile came out for the first time, that's when I got back on to old school. Like I started playing old school properly. Um, and then I sort of again was a bit like here and there on it. Like I got some friends playing it again, but they had all their stuff on RuneScape, so I'd end up going back to RuneScape and playing that and doing more dungeoneering or something else with like old friends. And then it's only when and I was sort of playing old school on the side every now and then when I had like the craving for it. But because I really like the new game, like and maybe this is just a me thing, but it's not an old school specific thing. But I love the new game experience. Like, that's like such a good thing. Even if the new game experience isn't good, I enjoy creating the new game or a new account and just like experiencing that again. So I think that's why I didn't get so far in my account. But then when I started work, I definitely like put more time into playing old school because it's my job now. So I kind of like felt like I have to play. Oh no.
Yeah.
So that's when it started like, okay, I can play and I can learn all these different bits, and
Yeah.
even I haven't done much on my main, I will say. Like, I've only done a few raids and only got my fire cape last year, which isn't that much of an achievement anymore. But when I was doing it, I think I managed to get my fire cape like 10 minutes before the game went down,
Oh
before
snap.
Leagues 4 started. So like I could see the system update timer counting down as I got onto Jad, and I was like, oh my god, oh no, oh no, oh no.
Extra
But yeah, man,
stress. Yeah.
yeah, it was because I was looking forward to Leagues, and I was like, oh, just I'll give it one go. I'll give 5K, one go, and I managed to do it. Maybe one day the Inferno, hopefully. But I'm really enjoying Perilous Moons at the moment. Like, really enjoying Perilous Moons. I think like Mod Rice smashed it.
Yeah,
Like,
that was an excellent update. It's so fast paced. It's just
mhm.
it's just got a nice little flow to it where you're not like it's like you want to go on the next run right as you loot the chest. It's just natural. I think the way they built it to just go into the next, I mean, I'm calling it a raid, but the next, set of bosses again. It's just like it's so natural to just go in, and I think that flow just they nailed it, and it just feels like such a cool environment too.
Yeah. Oh man, the graphics in the Moons of Peril
It's
dungeon
so cool.
are fantastic. Like, they knocked it out of the park. The art team like did a cracking job, and not only did the art team do a cracking job, but like for a first piece of content, like normally devs put on like a holiday event as their first piece of content,
Hmm.
right? That's the like get used to RuneScript, get used to like how we work and the process. Mod Rice, nah, you're jumping on this big PVM piece of content for one of the biggest updates we've ever done. There you go, and he smashed it, smashed it.
It's so good too because I feel like some of the pitfalls with like the sort of preparation you need to do for these because I'm kind of comparing Moons of Peril to Chambers of Xeric, where Chambers of Xeric, like
Mm.
the preparation, it's a bit convoluted. Like, it's not super complicated, but there's just like you're kind of you got to find the seeds, you got to plant the seeds, you got to kind of wait until they're
Hmm.
planted and stuff, and you got to kind of mix and match the ingredients. With Moons of Peril, it's just super simple. And I mean, especially when you hit 99, because I was only doing Moons of Peril at 99. And so, like,
Yeah.
you just click the bush, 3 salamanders come out, boom, you got like basically 300 HP worth of food just instantly. It's just like, okay, we're good. And I feel like that quickness and the kind of just overabundance of resources just makes it feel a lot more smooth and not like you're just sitting there feeling like you're wasting time prepping. So,
Yeah, that's
yep,
that's the thing. It just feels good to play, and that's why
it
I keep
does.
I keep going back. I'm like, oh, go and do something else. Like, no, you know what? No, I like it here. I'm gonna go for another few runs. Like, and then that cycle will repeat.
I,
Um,
I think the other nice thing is just the loot. There is
mhm.
something. Obviously, it hits our dopamine receptors a lot harder when we see different slots of loot. I know, like Moons
Yeah.
of Peril, if you kill all 3 bosses, you're getting like 5 or 6 loot piles, and it even though it's not that valuable, it just feels like you're building up something in your bank, and that kind of keeps you going. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I remember Goblin popping off when we first did. I think we did Perilous Moons together, and then he got some. He was on his Iron Man, and he was like, got some water orbs, and he was like, "Whoa, no way!" And every time he got water orbs, just like pogging off in the chat.
They're so good. They're so good.
um, but yeah, in terms of like now, I've got my main.
Hmm.
Um, I had a group Iron Man with some J mods, but we all sort of fell off after like a month or two.
Mm.
And I was still leveling that by myself, to be fair. Like I'm definitely the
Ah,
highest member of that team.
yep.
But you know, it's there when you know the time arises, and I eventually leave it to maybe just keep it as the normal iron. I don't know.
Hmm.
I had a tile man at one point because I got inspired by Settled series. You know how it goes, and then I'm like, what am I doing with my life? This.
It's yeah,
um,
the idea of it's great, and then you actually start playing it for like 10 minutes. You're like, what the hell? What's going
Again,
on?
yeah, exactly, going back to that thing, like new account, this is exciting,
Yeah.
oh, this is really cool. I have to stand here and wait for this guy to come over so I can try and pick his pockets, but you know, ultimately always fail for 20 hours until I finally got enough for like 2 extra tiles.
So painful.
But I respect Settled for everything that he puts into his series,
Yep.
but my god, that man must have patience of a saint. Like, oh my. But I do have a chunk bug now, which I'm finding like a lot more fulfilling. Well, I say chunk bug, that's its name, but
Mm.
I've got a chunk, which I feel like is more like progression on that account feels nicer because like I like the fact I'm quite limited, and that the next bit I have to like go and do X amount of things on the next bit. I don't have like this level of freedom that I normally would, which can be overwhelming sometimes.
Yes. Yep.
Um, Even though like I've only got a second chunk because like again slow progress, and I was doing bits on the main, and then the gim happened, uh, and now I'm having to flinch uh, high level enemies in the security of stronghold security, which is fun if you want to put it that way. It's definitely fun ish. So yeah, they're the sort of like main things I play. I don't know if I'd start any new accounts at this point though. I think I've got like a good little roster. Good little roster.
Yeah. That I've been actually nothing's public or anything, but I've been playing my one Iron Man for like 7 years at this point straight,
Yeah.
and I feel like I'm definitely different than the average player. I feel like most players kind of are in your headspace where it's fun to make a new account. It feels fresh, and then
Hmm.
you get it to a certain point where things start slowing down. You're like, oh, let's make another account. That'd be fun again.
Yeah.
That because I know of. I mean, I have a close friend that has literally made 100+ old school accounts, and they're usually like little PK builds, and then just make another one. He forgets all the passwords to like the previous 50 of them, but he just like that's what's fun about it, is making a brand new account. And I understand it to an extent, but with old school, I feel like as soon as and I was kind of that way a little bit, but as soon as I started embracing like just Iron Man, I think Iron Man was the thing that just got me obsessed with one account with all the progression on it. But I will say, I feel
Oh.
like the time is coming where I may be making a hardcore group Iron Man. We'll see.
Oh, okay. I'm excited.
Yeah,
You're gonna have to let me know the details if this
yeah.
happens.
So it's nothing set in stone, but I will say, I mean, this will really change my perception on the game, because being maxed because I maxed in 2019, so it's been
Yeah.
nearly 5 years of just kind of being jaded toward like the how the game's supposed to be. I mean, especially like having a TiVo for the past like 6 years too. It's just like you have a TiVo and I take it for granted, and most people are using their like rune crossbows and stuff, and I forget what that's like. So I think starting a new account will really like humble me and make me enjoy a lot of the like, especially because the game has advanced so much and there's so many new things. There's so many different metas nowadays, where when I think of early game, I think of one kind of particular route that I did years and years and years
Yeah.
ago. So
Yeah. I mean, especially with stuff like Varlamore coming in now, it's like the amount of just stuff to do and different routes you can take is like
it's
crazy
so
insane.
cool. And I think the way you guys are rebalancing some things. I mean, obviously there was the combat rebalance. One of the blogs,
Hmm.
just the final blog came out just this morning, but there's been so many good rebalances that are making the game feel more lively.
Yeah.
And I think overall the players like that. There are some outspoken people that just want the game to stay the same way it's always been with no future updates and don't change things because it feels more old school.
Yeah.
But the fact that we are getting new updates, I think it is important to look back at the past and just see how to make past pieces of content feel relevant in some way, even if it's not meta. And I think some of the gear balances you guys have done is great, and everything, just the game, if it feels lively, if they don't make the same mistakes as RS3 does a lot of things right.
Hmm.
There's some things that I'm against just fundamentally, which is like microtransactions.
Yeah.
But ultimately there are some really great things. Because I will literally think of ideas for old school, and there people are like, "Oh, RS3 already has that." I'm like, "What the hell?" Like that's crazy. But with one of the things I've heard, and again, I don't even really play RS3, but I hear that they come out with a new update and they disregard past things because we just want the new thing. And a
Mm.
lot of players get excited about that. And that would be the same with old school. But I think it is important to just keep the overall sort of feel of having areas still feel somewhat relevant years down the line. I think that's
Yeah,
important.
I think that's the thing, especially on RS3. I feel like RS3 gets a lot of is overshadowed by its hate towards MTX, which
Hmm.
again I understand, especially when you're comparing old school and RS3.
Yeah.
And there's like bonds are the only MTX we really have in old school, if you even want to call it MTX. But I think a lot of the good that that game does is overshadowed by the hatred towards the MTX, and
It is,
like
unfortunately.
yeah, and it just feels bad because like you, I when I'm reading feedback on an update, there are some times where people say like, oh well, RS3 do this, it's really cool. Maybe you guys should do something like this. Like I've been a big fan of I haven't played it myself, but everything I've read and heard about Big Game Hunter on RS3 sounds fantastic. And I would love to have something like that in old school. I mentioned it to Mod Other. We chatted about some sort of type of content to do that at one game jam, where it's like a giant chameleon boss, essentially hunter boss, and you have to track it through different areas, and it would like change how it fights depending on where it is. Um,
Interesting.
so yeah, Big Game Hunter are good. I'd recommend looking into it. It's a good RS3 update.
Yeah, a lot of their updates just feel fresh. They feel because they don't have to rely on, a bunch of bureaucracy trying, like, withholding certain creative ideas. So they
Mm.
really do have so much more freedom to just bring out something that's really fun. But yeah, one of the downsides is just the devaluation of past pieces of content, which not every player even agrees with. Some players like it that content just becomes completely pointless because there's new stuff to, you know, because ultimately when it's just a game at the end of the day, so you just want to have fun. So RS3,
Yeah.
some people really like that kind of freshness. Like there's a brand new update, it's going to take over this piece of content. They're not focused on an attachment to this armor. It's okay if this
Mm.
just dominates. And but I do like how old school is very careful, because RS3 doesn't seem to be as careful, but they do get some things really fun. But old school, we feel kind of limited sometimes because we do have to be so careful. We have to go through all these polls, but it keeps the game kind of a little bit more, I don't know,
Yeah.
intact.
Oh, yeah, I will say that's the thing we have to be careful.
Yep.
Otherwise, that I know there are always players, and there always will be players that will be like, um, we should keep things old school. We shouldn't change how this works. And I think they shouldn't be unvalidated, but I definitely think there's less of that happening now. But like, if we were to like ever change how we did work on the game, I think it would lose its core identity, which has shown it's proved very popular, especially over the last couple of years.
Yep.
So I would hate to see that be changed, and I don't think it ever will change because I think that would be so detrimental to the game and the player base.
Yep. Totally. And even the perception, like even if you were to make the most minor change,
Hmm.
but the perception from the community is that you've made a huge change or a huge blunder, that alone will kind of snowball into some really negative impacts potentially for the game. So I think even if you guys are making changes, I feel like part of it is just the illusion of like, okay, everything's still kind of old school. I think one of the ways I kind of see it, I know that sounds like almost like sort of pessimistic, but like it's just the idea of having the poll system. I feel like ultimately the way you guys have kind of gone about it, like one, the percentages have changed, so it's 70% now, which I don't think is that
Hmm.
big of a deal. It's still a super majority. And the other thing is like you guys are just so transparent and so responsive to all community outlets where people are
Hmm.
talking. And so ultimately, even if there wasn't a polling system, so I think that would be a horrible blunder to get rid of the polling system.
Agreed.
Even
Agreed.
even if you guys still did the exact same stuff as you guys are doing and still listening to everybody, still reviewing things, still taking so much feedback, I feel like just having that structure keeps the community's perception ultimately like just feeling like the game's still in good hands. So I think what you guys have done is like perfect. It's good because you guys have a little bit more freedom, and I think that's important as well for creativity on the developers' point of view. So,
Yeah,
but yeah,
definitely. It's always scary though. Like I
making any
think I
changes is terrifying, I bet.
oh, especially to classic content. Like we
Oh,
very rarely do it, but it's always like a frog in the throat kind of moment. Like oh, is this gonna go down well? Oh,
yeah.
should we have done it in the first place? But I think it's I, I don't know. The game itself is so unique with what we have to do. I would never recommend any new game do a poll system ever. Like if anyone's making a game and you
Really?
want to do a community, it
Just too
is
much bureaucracy, too many like hurdles to go over, I think.
yeah. I again, I think there is a. It's weird because what you were saying earlier about like being like sort of restrained by the polling system. There
Mm-hmm.
is that. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that old school as it is without the polling system, like you said, would be not old school anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least this game, it wouldn't be this game anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's important to keep. But I definitely wouldn't recommend any new developers to do that because it is definitely a lot of work, and there's no with old school. There's history behind it of why the polling system in there, and that encourages the reason why the polling system is there and it won't go. Whereas other games don't have that legacy to it, and it would be a
Yeah.
much harder sell to try and get that over. And especially as from a CM perspective, obviously the polling system brings a lot of challenges and probably different challenges to what probably the majority of community manager roles would take. I'm only going off of sort of what I know here because this is the only CM role I've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
But with the polling system, like you said, we have to be thinking about all these little niche communities and all different types of players and how this is going to affect them. And sometimes we don't get it right, and we try and hold our hands up to that. I think a lot of the time, and try and make it so that those communities can still thrive and flourish in their way. But as other games go, I think it would like change the dynamic of what other games would do, especially from a CM side of things. It's so interesting. Like thinking about CM as a role in the industry, definitely probably the most like interesting, I would say, old school than it is anywhere else.
Totally. Okay. Mutz asks, what's the most exciting part about your job, and what part of your job do you wish you rather didn't have to do, if there is anything? I don't know.
Good question. Good question. Most exciting part, I honestly, I'd probably say meeting players. It's like the coolest thing. I went to TwitchCon with Aiza, I think in 2022. I think
Was it the San Diego one?
no, it was the Amsterdam one.
Oh, okay. I see.
Um, so I think it was 2022 because yeah, it
Yeah, I
must have
think
been.
there was two of them. I'm pretty sure there's one in America, one in Amsterdam.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would have loved to gone to the one in America, but Amsterdam is sick. So I wasn't gonna complain.
Yeah.
um, and meeting players for the first time. I think that was like my first proper experience, like meeting players face to face. And I think really in like a mass quantity still is. And just having that experience was like so sick, honestly. Speaking with players, not just like about the game, but just generally like getting to know them and getting to know like what they think and how they're feeling about certain things, and just like seeing them on a level outside of like being a personality, especially like for some of the content creators.
Mm-hmm.
It's so enriching, like to see like how many people are so like this game's like such a big part of.
Yep.
So for me, that's like one of the best elements. So like RuneFest, I am so gassed for RuneFest. Like
Me too.
honestly, like it's gonna be. Like. I'm not even like really too fussed about like what's happening there. I'm just like really, really excited to just like finally meet some players and just like speak to people. I don't know. It might sound really weird, but like
No,
generally it's
that's
like one of the best things.
I completely agree. This is your first RuneFest too, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So I am excited. The only I suppose tricky thing for me is that my wife gives birth on October 1st. So obviously that's like the aim for our little baby coming.
Mm-hmm.
But
Congrats, by
if
the way.
that thank you, thank you.
Pre-congrats. Yeah.
If that happens early, I will be in Birmingham. And it's not too far to get to Cambridge, but still far enough. So I don't want to be like in the middle of RuneFest getting a text and being like, "Oh, by the way, you need to get to the hospital now."
Yeah.
Uh,
That would be stressful.
yeah, the electric scooters we have in Cambridge don't go all the way to Birmingham, so I'll have to train it. Like,
I bet you could make it. You could try.
yeah, I think so. I hopefully should be driving by then. I hope so. We'll see.
Yeah, that's
Um,
I'm really excited, and you're totally right. It's all about the people. Like my first two meetups were last year. One in Tennessee where I met up with a bunch of creators, and then TwitchCon where I met up with some Twitch viewers and a bunch of creators, like 80
oh yeah,
plus, and it was just so surreal seeing them all in person and just seeing that all these creators are actually just humans. That's I think that was the weirdest thing, is like you just see them as like entertainers, but they're just totally, you know, just normal
yeah.
people. It's cool.
I think JMOs get the same thing. Like sometimes I think
Yes,
people
they
forget of
do.
like we are just people. By the way, we're just like we have this job and this mantle of like being the faces of this video game that people love, but also we are just like individuals like that are just real people that like real things and that have a lot of feelings about lots of different things. Like at
Yep.
heart, I'm just a big straight up nerd who loves Pokemon. Like outside of my JMod stuff, so
Yeah,
uh,
seeing Sween and Ayuza there just chilling, that's always really fun because yeah, you see them on the couch and stuff. You see them as like we're all kind of D-list celebrities in a way, the J mods and creators and stuff. But seeing them in person and just getting to talk to them one on one is just really awesome. So yeah, I'm RuneFest will be the first time I've flown across the Atlantic Ocean, so
Oh, sick.
it'll
Okay, and
be
you're going
very
straight
exciting.
to Birmingham. What a
Yep.
place to go.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see how that is. So I'm
I,
excited
I
though.
mean, I'm from the ends of London, so like I'd probably recommend Birmingham over like where I grew up. So yeah, I don't think Birmingham's that bad, to be fair. Like I think it's better than like Farnborough was the last one, right?
I don't know.
Uh, yeah, and I think Farnborough is like there's nothing there. There is nothing there. I think from all the stories I've been told, it was like went to Roomfest and there was one Spoons, which is like a Witherspoons, which is like a chain of pubs in the UK,
Hmm.
and that was it. So everyone from Roomfest just like filled this Spoons up to the brim because it's the only place to go in Farnborough. So at least like for Birmingham, there's like more things to do, more space,
Yeah.
which will be nice.
Well,
Um,
so do you know anything about? You're probably not the person to ask about it, but the RuneFest tickets. I know there's so many people that are just missed out. Like they had like a 5 minute window to get tickets, and now, there's
I
just not enough capacity, basically.
I don't know how much I can say,
Okay.
so we might have to cut this, but who knows?
Okay.
But I know there are things that are being looked into to potentially have some more I don't know like the amount or what is going on with that because I'm not
Hmm.
involved in the conversations. But I think there are conversations happening about potentially doing some more. So hopefully, because I
Cool,
think
cool.
they sold out insanely quick. Like
Yeah.
everything I was told beforehand was like, yeah, RuneFest doesn't sell out, so it's never sold out before. We're not that worried. We're obviously like tacked on to Insomnia
Yeah.
this year, so a lot of the focus will be on Insomnia. And then 4 minutes later, oh, we have no tickets left. It's like, wait, what?
Oh my
What do
God.
you mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I don't know, like I don't know if that's even like definitely happening. I just know there are conversations because I
Okay.
think it took a lot of us back to see like how quick they sold out.
Yeah,
Um,
that was really exciting, but also really depressing. Just knowing how many more people want to come, and they're just now either they have to sit outside and just kind of chill, or go to Insomnia only, or whatever. But yeah, I
yeah,
hope. Well, we'll see. Well, hopefully something will be done. But
yeah, I think at least the thing with RuneFest is even if you can't get into RuneFest and you want to go just to meet people, I think that's still like a massively viable option because
yeah,
from everything I've heard about RuneFest, this social element is the big part. Like
yes,
announcements are like the second biggest, I think, especially from like this little survey we did. But the main reason you go to RuneFest is just to see everyone.
yeah.
That is it.
Yeah, I mean, if it's anything like TwitchCon, which I'm sure there's going to be huge differences, but
Mm.
TwitchCon, I regret getting a ticket there because like I went there and I met a few people, but vast majority of all the fun was just outside of the venue. Like that's
Yeah,
you're just hanging out with people. So yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I think it's, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess I'm more concerned. Just it sucks to be an American going out there and not having a RuneFest ticket because it's just like you're spending all this money to go out and not even having that ticket's just got to be like, even though you're still
Yeah,
gonna get all the fun of the social elements.
yeah. I think it's different for anyone like in the UK or even like closely by in Europe, where
Yeah,
you can just like probably get a cheapish flight, or if you really want to go cheap, get a coach from some places, even though that might take like 70 odd hours to get over. Maybe even less actually. Like the UK is not big.
yeah,
The
it's
UK
not.
is really not big. But yeah, that must like feel really bad. So I hope we are actually doing something because as far as I'm aware, like hopefully something should be happening. But and I would love for that to happen, but we'll have to wait and see because
Yep.
you know. Um, but in terms of like, I would say actually another thing that I love in this just role is the team. Like the team, not only is the passion there, what I was speaking about earlier, but genuinely they are like just a bunch of lovely individuals that I have a lot of time for. Like, I don't think there's a member of the team that I could. No, I don't think there's any member of the team that I would be like, yeah, that person's okay. Like, I could put time aside for like every single member of the old school team. Honestly, they're like such a good bunch of like people, and they've got like really funny bunch as well. Like as a collective, like very very funny bunch. And just a lot of like probably a lot like me, little chaotic gremlins most of the time, which I vibe with strongly. So yeah, those are the probably two things. I love the team so much, like especially now where we're at, like so many like interesting and fun people to be around.
Okay, well now the second part of the question: what is something about the job that you wish you didn't have to do?
I really wish I could disconnect from my job, honestly. That's probably the biggest thing. I feel like I'm in a state of perpetual CM,
Uh,
honestly. And that's not because of like any stresses on like my job or like targets that I have to hit or anything like
it's
that.
like self-inflicted, I'm imagining, right? Or
Yeah,
what?
100% is
Yeah.
self-inflicted. Like I think any healthier person would be like disconnect, have a healthy disconnect, but I'm not that. I
Yeah.
am like this is not my job, this is my life.
That is
Like
I completely relate with that, by the way. Like just
Oh
100%.
yeah.
Not in the same, obviously, like the same exact sense, but me being a RuneScape creator, like all of my feeds, like my personal feeds, are all RuneScape too. So it just
Yeah.
feels like at this point, like I need to just really unplug, because even if I'm not playing or streaming or making any videos, it still feels like I'm just nonstop consuming RuneScape, 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 RuneScape. I'm like, holy shit, like this is a
Hmm.
lot at this point.
This is the thing. I have personal feeds, and they're definitely not made up of like a lot of old school content.
Mm-hmm.
But I barely use those profiles anymore. Like
Yep.
my like Twitter on my phone is signed in to @JagX Sarnie.
Yeah.
Like it's there. When I go to bed of an evening or night, Reddit's probably the last thing I have a cheeky browse of before I go to bed.
And
Like
it's
I'm
all
watching a video.
2007 scape stuff.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So like the other, I remember like a couple of weeks ago, we put out like an updated blog about oh god, what was it? Um, something, maybe it was Varlamore content. Oh yeah, that was it, about things that we put out in Varlamore that didn't match up to the standards of what we had said initially in the poll questions
Mm-hmm.
or when we talked about it initially. And I remember sitting in a call with Goblin and Hootie, and we were chatting, and Hootie made a joke about like how I'm getting smoked on Reddit, and I was like, I just sort of played it off. Like I didn't realize what he was chatting about at first. I was like, oh yeah, okay, whatever. I probably just said something stupid or whatever. And then it's only when I logged onto Reddit that evening and I see the first thread that's in my like feed to be like, oh, how can you expect us to not take your advice or words as the only thing, basically. And that was like 1 in the morning. Like I was just
Uh,
browsing and I was like, oh no, that's really, yeah, I worded that really, like I worded that piss poorly. Like that was not cool. So I was like, yo, I need to, maybe I should make an apology. And I think if this was me maybe 2 years ago, I probably would have been a bit more either heated or too overly emotional in that apology.
mm-hmm.
And been like too apologetic, which like I generally am apologetic, like especially when I mess up.
Mm-hmm.
I feel really bad. But I think now I definitely had like a more level-headed approach to it, and I definitely had like I was apologetic, but not like too much, and just quite I feel like honest, hopefully.
Yeah.
And but that was at 1 in the morning, and I felt like I had to do that. And when I came to work in the morning, I easily was like, you know, you didn't need to apologize. I was like, yeah, but you know, like I felt like I should, and you know, I did. I didn't run it by anyone, which I would have done 2 years ago. Um,
That, I have to say, like with your being at CM, like yeah, it's kind of hard to clock out entirely
yeah,
because there's just so much going on. And then like part of your job is literally going through online feedback, which is can just be the biggest cesspool occasionally. Just like you're seeing the most negative sides of people. And don't get me wrong, you see a lot of positive stuff too, but just like having to deal with everything kind of unfiltered can take a toll at some point. And like just feeling the need to respond when it's not, you don't even need to be working, but you kind of feel that need to kind of, I don't know, address the community quickly and in a timely manner, like that stuff. Yeah, it can kind of get overbearing.
yeah. I think this ties into a question I saw when I was like looking at the responses to our like posts and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was like, how do you deal with like or like what the struggles as a CM or whatever, or how do you deal with that? And like jokingly, you don't. You just do. Like
You don't, you do.
you don't. You just do. You just crack on.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, honestly, like burnout is such like a huge part of like I think especially in CM, burnout can be like a real creep sort of mindset, like can just like come out of nowhere. Like
Yeah.
burnout is like so easy to just like, oh, now I'm feeling burnt out. Oh no. And it's like so interesting to say that my job is to read through thousands of comments and decipher that information into like a tangible like response basically is essentially what my job is.
Yeah.
Which is interesting to say the least. Like there is a lot of different opinions about a lot of different things all going on at the same time, and like it's so tricky because at first I didn't really know how to like process that.
Mm-hmm.
Sween gave me the best advice. Like you have to put yourselves in every player's shoes that's commenting. Like where are they at? Not only in terms of like their account and like what kind of account they play, where they're at in their game, gameplay. Are they doing raids? Are they just PvP focused, etc.? But like where they potentially could be at in their life. And I know this sounds like so metaphorical and like probably a bit out there, but like it's definitely helped me like ground down, especially when people are a bit more like agitated, um, or like aggressive with their responses.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely has helped me like process that a bit better and say like this person might just be having an off day. They could have had like a really shit day, found out some really shit news, and this is where they come to vent because this is something they're really passionate about, and something is not going the way they expected it to, and this is
Yep.
where they want to vent out. So like I think that bit is I've learned a lot from that. But yeah, like I said, it was like that's probably the bit I'd want to change in terms of being able to turn off. I'd love to be able to turn off a bit more.
Yep.
When I go on holiday, it's a bit better, but I'm still in that mindset of like, I want to check Reddit. I just want to just want to see what's going on over there.
Yep. Yep. Just gotta unplug. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say I am a little bit more as well conscientious about like people that are really lashing out or really like feel like they're being overly aggressive in comments and stuff, because it really does, I feel like ultimately most of the time come from a place of passion. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if you don't have like a platform, or if you just can't like you're truly care about the game, you truly care about something that's happening, sometimes it can feel like you're not getting like your voice isn't heard. So the only way to, improve your sort of like range of, audience basically is to just yell and be super aggressive basically and make a really like striking point that's just like, oh geez. But just to start to feel like you have a voice in a way. And I feel like I've seen that a lot. Like, and that's the really great thing I feel like the team has been doing, is really listening. And as Sween gave great advice, like putting yourselves into like their shoes and seeing how they see the game. It's like, it's important, because without that, like people just become more and more and more aggressive if they don't feel like they're being heard. So I think it's good.
Yeah. It's like the opposite. You know what I was saying earlier about, JMods are just people, and you were saying like content creators are just people.
Yeah.
It's like goes both ways. Like everyone behind a angry comment or a really polite response is a person,
Mm-hmm.
and like that ideal is like something that is definitely easy enough to like ground everything down to like a level of like, well, where are they coming from with this? Like, because I feel like especially for some of the louder people, and the definitely focused loudness, this might be, and I'm just making assumptions here, and it's probably only like a small minority, but this might be the only thing that they have going on in their lives. Like this might be their only like passion, right? Real dedicated passion that they have, and there's nothing wrong with that. But that's probably why they're feeling unheard, and that's probably why they are so passionate, because this game means so much to so many people, and I think it's easy to forget how much it means sometimes. So as a CM, it's like good to have that level of like, I don't know, it's like an anchor basically to keep me grounded rather
Yep.
than like, because don't get me wrong, there are stupid responses.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are plenty of stupid responses that come in, not just from me as a CM, but like me as a player. I can see comments and go, what the fuck are you talking about, bro? Like you're chatting utter nonsense. But like I can't be like that as Sarnie. I have to be like, where's that coming from? Why do I understand that? Even if it's something that I personally feel like is like a potentially stupid response, I would never ever like let that affect my thoughts towards that in terms of being Sarnie. It's like
Totally.
I need to always come at it from a grounded level, and
Yep.
that's hopefully what I've tried to do for the last 4 years.
Here's a kind of branching off question to that. Screetmonge, one of his questions is, do you ever find it hard to speak on behalf of the team when you personally have a different opinion?
As in, like, to players or to the team, I suppose is the.
Well, honestly, the way I'm reading this, like I feel like you're actually a person that probably wouldn't even have a problem with this because I don't think you have. Because you're so laid back, and I don't imagine you have super strong opinions on where the game's headed. I think you really can just embrace, whatever the community's sort of perception is of the game, and you're fine with that. But I guess the way I'm reading this is like, have you ever had a strong take on the game and the team's take is different, and you just have to voice it regardless?
Yeah, I have. I definitely have some strong opinions about the game, and like have had strong opinions about direction that we've taken.
Hmm.
I think one of the biggest ones, and this was probably going to come up because I imagine I was wondering if the question about what content do I really like and what content would I remove from the game would come up.
Yeah, well, let's just go
Uh,
there right now too. You can just extend it into that. Let's hear it.
okay. I'll start with like the removal question.
Okay.
I always think this asking someone maybe it's different for other games, but for this game, there's so much history tied in. Talking about removing something feels really weird to me because there's like even if it's bad content, or in my opinion, bad content, it feels really weird to like remove it. If you know what I mean,
Hmm.
like I think improvements can always be made to content, and
Yeah.
I think that even the oldest content should always have that available option. Because like I did fishing trawler on the GIM the other night, and my god, it is like it's just boring. It's just boring. Like I don't
So
I don't
bad.
I don't enjoy it. Like there's nothing to it. Like, and I was on the GIM as well, so I didn't have any I didn't have any paste, so I couldn't clog up the holes. I was just upstairs waiting for the Kraken to come, and then because I'm on the American servers, my ping's all over the place,
Ah,
and
God.
I'm missing my like my clicks on the Kraken because the hitbox is all over the place as well. And I was just like, man, I don't want to be here. But at least I got my set now, so I don't have to ever go back. So that's one thing.
Jeezy. Jeezy.
But thank you. But I think even with all that being said, I removing it would feel so weird. I just think like it can be improved, you know.
But that's the
Uh,
piece of content that comes to your mind.
as of lately, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely, definitely lately. After that grind, I was like, God damn, I want to. I don't want to be. I don't want to be on this boat with all these people. Let's just turn NC Hider on. Like, I just want to get my angler outfit and get out of here. You know.
Yep. I feel that.
Um, all for a bloody combat achievement as well. That's it. That's all I got it for. Is for the Temporos combat achievement.
Oh
That
God. Yep.
it's not even that valuable. I could have avoided that and done it later, but it was there. It was accessible on the game. But I think like this is and I thought about this answer a lot because when that question came up, I'm always like I know what I would say, but I again removal. I think I never would remove any content. I know maybe that's just like a half-assed answer. Maybe some people think that's a half-assed answer at least. But I think like forestry, and I said, oh, he said the word. Ooh, um, had a lot to it, and I'm speaking as the CM that was on that project.
Yeah.
Forestry, and I will say forestry has done things that have been very good for the skill overall, like
Hmm.
the timers on the trees, making it more group friendly has been
Hmm.
fantastic. Some of the rewards are great, but there was a lot of missteps with that project. And I still think there's things we should be doing now, or at least some changes we should make that would make forestry feel better, even after all of this. Because like I said this to Aiza, like in our like little reviews that we have, like I think decisions that I had made about like doing certain things in a certain order, like splitting the content up, for example, was the right decision at the time. But because of everything else that happened, like all the issues with the beta, the feeling of bloat, and everything else that came with it, all of those decisions that felt right at the time then added on to the list of things that we shouldn't definitely have done. But we didn't know that at the time.
Yep. Yep.
So like again, I wouldn't remove forestry, but I think there's definitely improvements to be done still, because it's just in a weird spot right now, right? Like I feel like there's people that really love the whole community aspect and the hopping and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
I do think we were going down the right path of like tweaking that slightly so it wasn't so overpowered, but I feel like maybe we've gone too far this time. And I think forestry as it goes, it was a case of like how long do we really want to just like stay on this piece of content for, because like those the devs that were involved were meant to be on that project, I think, for like once forestry part like one had hit originally, like right in the early days. Once forestry part one hit, they would just move on to another piece of content. You know, they do have the 2 weeks of balancing and stuff, but then it got split up, so that means more time, and then that got pushed back, so that means more time, and then all the stuff happened during part one and part two. So those devs were on that project for a long time, a long time. Um, so it's forestry's a weird one. Forestry's a really weird one. It's definitely been the most interesting piece of content that I've been around to be a part of.
Mm-hmm.
So again, might be a half-assed answer. I wouldn't remove forestry. I'd make improvements, and I definitely would make improvements to fish and trawler, because yeah,
Yeah.
that things need to be fixed, bro. Like,
That's interesting because I completely with you on forestry. I was very outspoken about it. I feel like I just didn't like it
oh,
from
I know.
yeah, no, you probably heard. Yeah, I was but the thing is like the idea of forestry beforehand sounded absolutely amazing and some of the changes they've made have been good. And I'm not going to touch on it too much, but just briefly because I really haven't talked about it in months, but like
Mm,
really and like you said, like the great things were reworking tree timers and just allowing you to not feel punished chopping with other players. That was great. And I think just across the board, just making sort of balance changes to trees in general, because that was something I feel like was missed out on. Is you can kind of chop any tree at this point. You're getting these events and stuff. I have I could go on a whole separate ramble on the events and stuff, but ultimately, like it would have just been so cool to just have a very simplistic sort of rework with how trees work, allowing higher trees like U's and Magics to be worth it at some point. And I like some of the, rewards that come from it, but it did feel like so much was happening and they've made changes, but it reminds me, and I don't think you were on the team at the time with warding, but warding
mm,
and the team has made statements about this. Like warding, it was just so convoluted. Like they were adding
yeah,
so much stuff, and it just basically like your first impression is gonna be so hard to change.
shift,
Basically,
yeah.
so, like your first impression of warding. I mean, warding was so convoluted. I was like, oh my god, this is just too much. And then
Mm,
trying to change people's minds on that was really hard. So they already have made a lot of good changes to forestry and gotten rid of a lot of the convolution, but ultimately there still is like that bad feeling that I get. But I also have to be aware that a lot of people really do enjoy forestry as is right now. And I
yeah,
can't, because I have a subjective opinion on it, like I can't just overstate everybody else's, because I don't know, some people really like forestry. So,
yeah. I think that's why we called it the point of like, and I raised this myself of like this probably has to be, at least for a while, the final time we touch forestry, because we've been going back and forth on this project for so long now, and like
yeah.
I think there might have been like maybe two projects potentially that got pushed back or canned because of the amount of
Oof.
time that's spent on forestry, which is a lot of time,
Yeah.
like so much time. But going back to that sort of question before about not like do I feel okay like raising my voice to the team on like certain subjects, I think
Mm-hmm.
forestry was probably one of those where
I see.
I had raised issues earlier, but then it's like as a CM especially, there's like a fine balance between wanting to support the devs and what they want to do, and and listening to the players and having them have their say. So like I can only do so much in terms
Yep.
of like here's what the players say, here's what the players want. This is why it took so long to scrap teas, for example. Like we tweaked teas what 2 or 3 times, I think.
Hmm.
and then we eventually just got rid of them because no one wanted them. It was very clear no one wanted them.
Yeah.
um, and I raised that a few times. Maybe I probably could have done a better job raising it. Honestly, maybe I could have been a bit more like forthcoming, or like a bit more brazen. Is brazen the right word? Maybe a bit.
Yeah.
Maybe yeah.
But it's, I mean, but you're in a position where you kind of are the sort of like mouthpiece, sort of. So you want to remain somewhat unbiased. You don't want to be too, I guess, well, you said
Hmm.
brazen, but ultimately, like sometimes if you feel something strongly, you kind of got to voice it. Yeah, it's kind of a tough position, I'd imagine, for you to be in.
Yeah, I think it definitely came across, especially with the teas and stuff. I definitely like eventually I was like, no, I need to just put my foot down
Yeah.
now because it was gonna like
Yeah.
it was gonna like go through another lot of changes, and I was like,
Oh,
yo,
can't do this.
no, we can't do it. And I even like ended up going to like IEs and being like, can you just like back me up on this, please? Can you just like come into these meetings and just like back me up? And like this is nothing wrong with like there's nothing on the devs. Like I don't want to
Yeah.
feel like I'm flaming the devs
Hmm.
that made the content because it's like they had an idea and they wanted to do it and they felt passionately about the
Yep.
idea, and I like totally understand that. It's just like such a
Yeah.
fine line to deal with that. But I think out of everything, the forestry stuff taught me a lot, like so much. I've gained so much like valuable insight from that whole process. And that's probably why like I've been on the streams more, and I've like, sort of taken the even more transparent approach than I was before to like
That's
blogs and
good.
everything. Because it's so crucial now. Like it's so important, and I've seen that after forestry. I don't want another forestry incident. That's
Yeah.
like my one thing in the back of my mind all the time. Like if something starts going down that path, I'm like, no, 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 no,
Yeah.
not again. I can't do that again.
Yeah, it's tough though because you want to make like a significant change to something. Like forestry, I
Hmm.
imagine the devs, I mean, yeah, I don't blame really the devs at all. In fact, if I were to be developing something, I could totally imagine my overall view of something. You know, you have your grand vision of what this could be, but you have to
Yeah.
sort of illustrate that to the whole player base, especially with something
Hmm.
as foundational as forestry, which is woodcutting. It's an entire skill. It's not
Yeah.
just one piece of content. So you have to try to give the whole community this idea, this grand vision of what you see, but ultimately, you know, people no matter what are just going to shut down things if there's any change.
Yeah.
So you have to deal with that, and then you have to deal with trying to get everybody kind of on board. But yeah, with this game, I mean, you have to keep things somewhat simple. You just have to keep it
Hmm.
simple. You got to keep it clean. You got to keep it clear, and no matter what you do, people will be butthurt.
Oh,
So
of
there's
course.
there's no absolute winning, but I think simplicity is key, and like hopefully going forward, because I mean, I wouldn't totally be against you know reworks to like fishing and mining and other things, but just don't make too big of changes. Just make the things that really make sense. Like, okay, what are the problems with this? What are the pieces of content that aren't getting utilized because they're just so
Mhm.
imbalanced, like the rates and the resources you get? Like, we could just make simple changes that make sense without going super crazy mode on it.
Yeah, I think not only did I learn a lot from like forestry, speaking of those like simple changes,
Hmm.
but I think like the whole team has seen this as like something that is like to keep an eye on as like a barrier of like here's where we shouldn't go. And again,
Yeah.
no flame. This is no flame at the devs whatsoever. It's just like the way things happened.
Yeah.
But like look at the Chamber of Xeric changes. Like that is core changes and quality of life improvements to Chambers of Xeric. That was all it was. It wasn't trying to like redo how Chambers worked
Yep.
or like the core concept of it. It was like where's the problems lying and what players have been talking about for years
Yep.
want improving. There it is. Cool. That's all we need to do.
And those were amazing changes, and it still feels
Yeah,
like the good old content, but just none of the annoyances.
exactly. So
So
yeah, it's so that's why like Varlamore I took like so seriously when I was doing it, like making sure that we were on the right track. And I know we still had some missteps with Varlamore, especially like polling and
mhm.
logging. But even that, it's just like every like misstep that we do or I do or whoever does, it's like another thing that's like, okay, cool, that's another lesson learned. How do I not do that again, or how
Yep.
does this not happen again? Which for me is like a good learning point. It's a shame that they happen, of course, but at least like I get something out of it and that I can use going forward and hopefully make things better
Yeah.
overall.
Yeah, that Chambers of Zarek update was great because you really are just pinpointing the things that don't feel good. And with like, for example, if there was another mining update, like I just think of Motherlode Mine. Like
Hmm.
if devs or the QA team or something were just to step in there and mine for a little bit and just get an overall just emotional response on how these things feel. Like what feels bad, like what feels like obnoxious, what feels
Hmm.
not good, because I feel like we as a community are still kind of breaking free from the sense that like skilling needs to be tedious and masochistic for it to value high XP rates, which is just so silly. It's so archaic. And if we were to
Yeah.
just look at certain pieces of content and literally just play it, like just ignore the XP, ignore the rewards, and just what are you actually interacting with? Does this feel good? Because there's so many pieces of content, in my opinion, that just don't, there's elements of it that just don't feel good. It's like, oh, this is just, it's pissing me off a little bit. So if we were to
Hmm.
just make those little minor changes to little things, I feel like it could make huge drastic improvements to the way like just content feels. So then it's not, especially in regards to skilling, it's not just this is the best thing to do, I'm going to do this. It's like, no, there's actually, you could actually enjoy something significantly more and it's less XP, but like the feel of it just feels better and you'd want to
I
do
mean,
it. So
honestly, yeah, that's the sort of like one I want to take forward with just like content in general and like especially being CM on it. Like you want to make sure it's like feels the
yeah,
best it possibly can. Like I feel like the Herblore stuff that we put out recently is a good example of that because I feel like players had, and maybe that's a part of my fault for not like describing the activity as well, but I feel like there was a lot of comparisons between like it and Giants Foundry, for example,
mm-hmm.
which there is. I think there are a lot of comparisons you can make between it, but then the bad stuff from, I say the bad, things that don't players don't like the UI focus,
Yeah,
obviously also comes into that whole like, well, it's like this, so it must have this element and this element, and that's not something that you can sort of blame players for because it's all they have to go off.
yeah,
You know,
it's hard to illustrate exactly because you probably can, you know what the activity is going to be like, but
yeah,
really hard to
yeah,
show that without actually letting players play it.
exactly. So, I mean, I'll give you a little bit of teaser. The blog will come out anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine by this point it goes out, the blog will already be out, but like, there's stuff in the blog that I've sort of like made more transparent.
Mm.
Like, oh, we didn't do a good enough job of this. So here's a little bit more of an explanation, or like countering points that players were raising to be like, no, it's not like this, it's actually like this, just so you have a better understanding. But there's also some stuff in this blog that's like, yeah, we're going to change this, but we can't give you the specifics yet because like
Yeah.
we haven't even got there yet. So
And
yeah.
that's good to be transparent on too. So yeah, some, you know, because I made a ramble talking about that herblore activity,
Hmm.
and I didn't even realize because like I have my own gripes with Giants Foundry, just kind of
Yeah.
like the clunkiness, and multiple people pointed out like one of the things they're bothered by is the progress bar. It just feels like they're staring at a progress bar the entire time.
Hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, that I didn't even really consider that, but that actually is a big deal. That doesn't feel fulfilling. Like it just doesn't feel satisfying to be staring at a bar and hoping things just go a
It
certain way.
takes you
So
out. It takes you out of the world, right? Like it's
yeah,
not you're not in Giant's Foundry anymore. You're not in this like glorious workshop that was lost to the ages and
mm-hmm.
refound by the Giants. Like you're now staring at a bar
Yeah,
that is
just
the
three
UI
colors.
part. Yeah, that is it. So, and I think Giants Foundry does good in what it does, but especially in this like updated blog, I wanted to make sure that like no, UI will not be a focus of this thing. It's not going to be
That's
that
good.
that. Like we even talked about it today. Like how can we make it so because there's a UI element, but it's like here's the potions that you can make for the
Yeah,
orders, and that's it. But how can we even like detract from that and still have that like showcase in the world?
yeah.
Um, so yeah, there's been a lot of talk on that.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. Ultimately, I always get excited about new stuff because it feels like you guys are on a pretty solid upward trajectory of fun in mini games and activities. Um,
Hmm.
But I always have that gripe that I usually mention, which is just like when it drops, I just I just want to I want like there to be, it doesn't need to be like a beta, but just the willingness for the devs to maybe make a few updates based on just, I don't know. And I know like most of the player base is just really centered on like just get their collection logs or see what the XP rates are. But for me, I'm just like, I want this to just feel good. Like, does this feel like fun? And if they were to just be like little changes made over the next 2 weeks when it already drops and just iron out those little kinks that just don't like just feel off or just feel kind of clunky, I feel like would just make a world of difference.
It's funny you say that because like, and we talked about this in the stages yesterday, but originally the whole activity was more Overcooked themed.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I heard some
Like,
commenters saying
yeah,
that.
it was more Overcooked themed, and there was going to be like spillages and fires that you would have to put out, and you basically like enter the activity and you'd like try and fulfill as many orders before eventually like it would just break down and you would have to like that would be it, and then you'd have to like restart basically.
I see.
And there was like one of the rewards was a guy called Steve that would mop up stuff for you automatically, so you wouldn't have to tend to as many spillages or things. But like, as much as that is like, I feel like there's a place for that probably, like maybe in gnome cooking, maybe there's some overcooked level activity there. It didn't feel right for Herblore, and it just made it like overly complicated, and the focus sort of like came away from the actual like alchemy aspect. So like, this is why we made a more like grounded approach, and it should be like quite a quick activity. I think like you should be like consistently making potions all the time. It's not going to be like you've got one contract and then it takes 5 minutes to fulfill. It should be like you're making potions consistently, like a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yoda's Yoda asks, I would love to hear how the community manager team works. Do you guys separate the platforms, Twitter, Reddit, Facebook, or the communities, PvP, Iron, Low, High Level, etc., for workload reasons? How is the decision making when it comes to player suggestions versus questions?
Interesting. There's a lot in that question.
Yeah, that was a lot. Do you have it pulled up? You might need to. Do you want me to link it to
yeah,
you?
you know what? I actually wrote down like a bunch of the questions that were on the threads beforehand. So like, as soon as you said it, my eye locked in on,
Okay. I'll just link it just in case. But yeah, there's a lot.
Thank you. How community management team works? Maybe I should go like separate the platforms. I'll break it down. Yes, we do separate the platforms as much as I think people want to. There's a lot of opinions about. We listen to Reddit a lot. We do break down the platforms, and we do like take into account like where information is coming from, and then also who is it coming from. So we do try and do that as much as we can in terms of not only just like per person, but per community, per platform, etc. Like it's interesting because you can't have. This isn't really something an AI can do that well. Like, it's one of those things that you have to have a person behind it to like influence the ideas that are coming from like a certain community or a certain group of people or a certain platform. Like, I know we like there was tests on AI done to see like how well it would actually perform, like identifying issues, and it didn't do well. It didn't do well at all. Because you need that human aspect behind it, because
Yep.
you need to understand like why they're saying it. Like I was saying earlier, like why is someone saying this? So yeah, in terms of platforms and communities, we try and like, especially for when updates are focused on like a specific area, like PvP, for example, or IMN, or mains, or whoever it might be, we tend to try and have like a sort of split view where like there's what is the overall community saying, and then what are this specific community that we're targeting saying, and then we can sort of balance up like the opinions of like how much it matters to both communities, why does it matter, etc. So there is a lot of like determination on like what I was saying before, like where the information's coming from, who's it coming from, and then like trying to put that into the sort of cohesive what do the players want kind of decisions. But in terms of like, I think I spoke about this earlier, in terms of like the team working, everyone has their own projects, and we're sort of left to our own devices to do what we want, create our own timelines in terms of like when we want to bog out, when we want to do polling, how do we work that around like everyone else's projects? Because obviously there's a lot going on in the team as a whole. There's multiple different smaller teams working on multiple different things. The majority of them have to be polled, like, or have some element of needing to be polled or needs to be communicated about. So as a CM team, like, I feel like we work really, really well together. And like, I introduced some sort of like new admin bits recently that's made like communication not only between like us and CM, but across the whole team really, really like more functional, more transparent. Like, basically projects have their own little pages, like CM page now, which has like everything we want to do in terms of blogs and like social media content and videos and creator commissions and all this jazz and polling dates and stuff. And then devs can see what we're doing, and then it links to all the devs pages like design docs and everything else. And then like a cohesive calendar which has got like everything going on that you can see all at once. So yeah, it's like a cohesive team. Like, I love our team, man. Like, the CM team is fantastic. You know, we got Aiza, myself, Light, Goblin, and Blossom, who I think people have started to see more bits of Blossom, especially if you're on Discord. Obviously, Blossom like the most active because that's like her little area.
That's what I actually kind of wanted to expand on. Like, what do you like more dealing with? Twitter, Reddit, Discord, Facebook? Does anyone use Facebook?
Oh man, no. Like, I will check Facebook. Don't get me wrong, because like, there's always a value in especially for like reaffirming what I think the players want.
Yeah.
Facebook is like can really sometimes be like a good indication of like, okay, everything that I've just summed up from multiple platforms, Facebook have got like a cohesive opinion that is normally in the right direction of like something that I've identified, which is like, okay, cool. I'm not making this up.
Yeah.
But like, Facebook's a weird one. I will say Facebook has got like, weirdly, a lot of high level players on there, or at least players that have been around for a long time. Maybe they're not high level players. And like,
They're
you know,
like
you've got like,
they're veterans though, we should say.
yeah, you've got like top, you've got like top fans and shit like that
Yeah.
That's the majority of like comments on a Facebook post. And they're normally like negative, I would say. They're fairly negative.
Yeah.
I
haven't been on Facebook in 6+ years, so
I wouldn't recommend it. As like outside of CM on a personal level, yeah, Facebook ain't great, bro.
Yeah,
like,
it's not.
It's not good.
So what's your favorite though?
I do quite like Reddit as much as people like to meme that we like listen to Reddit a lot. I do quite like Reddit. I like how like cohesive it is for me. I also really like Discord. I'm just like not as good responding quickly on Discord. At least like Reddit, I feel like I can take my time a little bit more.
Yeah. Reddit's nice because I feel like everybody funnels there. So you got basically everybody, and then you also get the Reddit posts that are tweets. So it almost feels like you're getting a good mixture of a little bit of Twitter in there. And then, I don't know, like, I feel like there is a pretty balanced take where you get the kind of elitist takes, and then occasionally you get the super casual takes, and it feels pretty balanced. I kind of like it too.
Yeah. And like, for what it's worth, we don't just stick to like, well, at least I don't stick to just like the 2007 Skate subreddit. There are like other subreddits that I will watch or I will like monitor when I'm like,
any in particular that you want to say?
Just like Ironscape's like a good one.
Okay.
I think that's Ironscape is like a big one. I'm always like just sort of like keeping an eye on, just in case. Like, obviously those communities are smaller in terms of like the Reddit communities, but like, again, it's the sort of like validation of like, if the feedback that I think I'm understanding is that like reflected in this place as well as this place and this place.
Yeah. That's important.
Yeah, it really is. So yeah, I don't mind Twitter. I will say Twitter can be quite negative a lot of the time.
Well, Twitter's more negative because you have like the people that just take the game super, super seriously and have put in shit tons of hours. Like, it feels like, because Twitter, the way it just, it's the people that are in the top threads, like if Old School makes a post, the top people that are going to be there are the content creators that have been playing this game for a decade. So you see Foe up there all the time. You see, Curtis or Skill Specs or what. It's just whoever's, and they've all played 20,000 plus hours. So you got like this huge, just the dominating presence. And then everybody else is just weighted so low on that. So you're kind of just getting the whole like, click like, oh yeah, I like this content creator, so I'm just going to agree with him or whatever, whereas Reddit feels more anonymous and free flowing a little bit.
I will say I Twitter especially, there are definitely like names, and these aren't like names of like popular content creators. There are names that I know for a fact are going to be replying to that Twitter thread, and I am.
Me too. Yeah, I know them.
I'm fucking ready. I'm ready, and I normally have a good gist of what they're going to say as well. And like, I'd say 80% of the time, like, pretty spot on.
Yep. You're ready. Yeah.
And again, that's not to like invalidate their opinions, like at all.
But it's clockwork. It's like you just know exactly what's going to be said. The talking points. That. Yeah.
But it is really nice when, especially those players come out and they change. It's like a good change, and they're like, "Oh, actually, you know what? This is pretty good." And you're like, "Yo, that's a win right there. That's a big win."
Yeah.
But so I think they all have their own places. I think Reddit's just like the easiest one for me to like digest. I think, especially because I spend a lot of time on there outside now, especially not being able to turn off. I don't like the new Reddit format though. I can get in the bin. Like, I hate it so much. Like, it's weird because there's like old Reddit, and then there's new .reddit, which is the one I use, like the middle ground, and then there's like just normal new Reddit, which is horrible. I hate it so much, like with a passion.
I'm trying to even. I mean, I know like old Reddit I used for a while, and then I kind of just got used to the more modern. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not on it enough to really understand the difference between the very new version of it.
Yeah, so any like UI change on any platform, I'm always like, whoa, what's going on?
Companies know they have to be so careful with that. Like they got to go so incrementally because it can just piss off the entire user base so quickly.
And we know that more than any.
Yeah, every company knows at this point. Like, hey, incrementally, please, just very, very slowly.
So yeah, I think I want to use Discord more, and I think especially with the stages that we've been doing lately, I've been really enjoying doing the stages. They're like a lot more casual. They're a bit like this actually. They're a lot more like casual. There's less pressure on because you've not got a camera on your face.
Yeah.
And like I don't know if you've ever listened to any of the stages, but they are definitely way more chaotic than the streams are.
Oh really? Yeah, I haven't listened into one.
Oh yeah, they're like, I normally don't prepare questions ahead of time. I normally just like will have like a rough notes on what we want to talk about, and then we'll have players, like there's this channel in there, and I'm like, put your questions in there and then upvote the ones you want to be asked, and then I'll sort of like skim through that, but then conversations happen, and then we just end up like jumping around between topics, and it's just like, it's good chaos. But yeah,
is stages, that's for anybody to join in, or is it just so? And I mean, that first of all, it's a great idea. I think I haven't tuned into one, but it almost feels like a loose sort of like player council. The players that are the most passionate get involved, talk, raise their points. Have you what have you seen as like the pros of doing that, and are there any cons?
I think it's been a really nice way, especially for we've only done a few now. I think we've done one for the God Alignments. We did the first one we ever did was for forestry. And then we did one yesterday about the herblore activity. It's a really nice way to sort of put like decisions we potentially want to make in front of players, like in a small group of players before we go out to the masses. So like ideas will run by like that group, even just off the cuff ideas that me and Mac came up with, who was on the stages yesterday, that players were like, yo, that sounds sick, we should do that. And it's like, okay, there is something there then. And then we had a meeting today to go over that, and some of the sort of off the cuff comments or things that we had like weren't expecting to talk about had like actually like made its way into that feedback meeting to be like, actually players did enjoy the sound of this. Do we want to explore it? What does it mean, etc.? Like, spoilers for you, but like we've added a new reward into the herbivore activity,
Ooh,
which is a new potion, which is very apt for the herbivore activity.
I'm excited.
um,
When's that blog
so
out? Do you know?
hopefully, I mean, it's been editorialized, so it could go out tomorrow, really. But mate, I'll probably still stick with my timelines of Friday, but
Okay,
we'll see. Maybe tomorrow. Who knows?
I'm prepared.
Um, yeah, I can give you a cheeky insight if you want now. It's only a day.
Are you able to share what the new potion is, the new reward?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
It's called the Potion of Goading,
Of what?
and goading.
Goading?
Yeah, goading. Yeah.
What? Spell that. What? Goading?
Goading.
What the
Yeah.
hell does that mean?
I think you goad when you goad someone, like you like I don't think it's take the Mickey out of them. You like egg them on in like a oh, you think you can handle that? Come on and give me a piece of that.
Oh,
I
okay. It's
dare
like
you.
I just looked
Egging
it
them
up.
on.
Yeah, goading, act of inciting, prodding, driving, or pricking with. Okay,
Yeah,
interesting.
there you go. So this will like set aggro on any non-aggressive enemies within a 9 by 9 area of the
Ooh.
player. Um,
Okay. That was like the original idea behind one of the Bard skill ideas. You know, remember Bard?
yeah,
Just
yeah.
like this like trumpet or the war drum or something to aggro monsters again. Yeah.
So yeah, this will be a potion that like everyone can make the potion. We haven't determined like what herb you're going to use yet.
Mm-hmm.
But the secondary will only be able to be got through the activity. But the secondary will be tradable. The potion will be tradable. There's
Is
nothing that.
is it 4 dose?
Uh, I think it's 3 dose normally, but with the new amulet chemistry,
Okay.
probably
Oh,
more
but
4 dose.
it can be a 4 dose. It's not just
Can
a
be a
one
4 dose.
dose. Okay, I see.
As far
Perfect.
as I'm aware, I probably should have asked
No,
Matt.
that makes sense though. 4 dose should be the way because if people are wanting to camp something and keep aggro, they don't want to just have a one
Yeah.
dose of that. It's too much inventory.
And what's nice about this is it's even like non-aggressive enemies you will aggro, so like dust devils, for example.
Ooh, so let me get this right. Do you know if it's does it aggro them for what a normal aggro timer would be? So that area is now all the monsters are aggro for 10 minutes, or is it just those ones that are alive right now? You drink it and they become aggro.
That's a good question. That's a very good question. Again, we came up with like the sort of base of this today.
Mm-hmm.
So like you're getting like very fresh.
Because that would be super nice quality of life. I'm even imagining something like, I mean, we already have Venator Bow for like jellies of people that are, killing their jellies, and those are normally peaceful. But if you just had this potion that just instant aggro's them, that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, so the we made it so that if something is already aggroed onto someone else, you won't be able to like steal their like monsters, because that was like
Yeah,
that'd be
that's
such a
gonna be
troll move.
that's gonna be weird to code. Okay,
Yeah.
So surely it's not for 10 minutes then. Surely it is just the ones that are alive right then.
I imagine so. I'll probably confirm with Mac. See, this is the thing. I'll confirm with Mac tomorrow just to be like, what are the specifics of this?
That's
And
gonna be
then,
very odd to code, but I'm curious now.
yeah, Mac's already been doing the work. He's been speaking to Engine, like, what can we do about making this a thing? And there's been conversations happening.
So what about a peaceful potion? You're gonna make monsters non-aggro to you. See that could have a little bit of use, but probably a lot less use. But
yeah. Well, this one's only going to be standard monsters, so you won't be able to like take Verzics.
Yeah, of course. Can you imagine that? You just use.
I mean,
like,
there's
peaceful...
space for it.
Yeah.
There's space for it. The little bard trumpet, take Verzic, be like, and then just like have a swing your way.
I just imagined going to like the awakened bosses and just using just be peaceful for a little bit.
Yeah, just chill.
Let me
chill.
eat up for a little bit. Pause.
A little white flag.
Pause, please.
Just be like, yo, just time out, please.
Standing in the middle of the inferno. Pause. Everyone just pause. Chill out. Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of other like changes we've made that I think I am pretty confident that people are gonna like.
Cool. Okay. Second base. This is a different question. I'm curious what your thoughts are just on PvP in general. But he's asking, what do you think can be done to lower the barrier to entry to PvP?
I have thought about this in my spare time. Like I really like, especially when game jam projects come around, I really like to sort of like not get outside my comfort zone, but really think about new player experience a lot of the time.
Hmm.
Because I think it's so important that we like get that solidly, especially doing the GIM recently. Um, like even just like Scurrius again, super biased, but like fantastic piece of content. Um, Even getting to that point is still quite difficult for a new player. Like you still got to get the 43 prayer, you still got to get a lot of like kit gear and stuff. There's still nothing like early enough that does that. Like I know there was game jam ideas before about like real early dungeons that you wouldn't even need prayers for, that you could just like sort of enter really low leveled, which I think would be sick. But I think it's the same with PvP, right? It's like, yeah, we have LMS, but the LMS is just like has its own problems. I'm not going to go into LMS's
Hmm.
problems because there's plenty of them. But I think there's like no teaching mechanic for PvP, which is the problem. And I think a part of that problem is how like uh, the breadth of PvP and how much you need to know. But I think there are probably ways that you could learn PvP, at least in like small increments, that we should introduce, like some sort of like, I don't even want to say tutorial, but some sort of thing that you can take part in that will just like get you in the right mindset for PvP. I think because that's the biggest thing is getting over that like one fear. I think there's a lot of fear that has stigmatized PvP for a long time. And then the second part is just like learning the core mechanics, which a lot of it is just PVM mechanics, you know, switching prayers, switching gear. But I think mindset is the big thing. So having like a practice area you can do that in is probably like a good barrier to entry for that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm even just thinking like LMS taught me a ton. Like it
Mm.
literally showed me the ropes. It got me really proficient with switches and learning how to, click on prayers before gear swaps and all these things that you kind of learn. But it did take a lot of hours to start getting into. I think it'd be interesting almost to see like a beginner LMS. I know that almost sounds like the
Hmm.
same thing, but just something that's even quicker, more fast paced, and maybe it uses the same LMS reward shop so it doesn't feel like you're wasting your time, but fewer rewards per hour. But what you're doing is going in there with just a weapon swap or something like that. So
Yeah.
you're focusing on the bare minimum because even LMS you don't have to focus on run, you don't have to focus on prayer, you don't have to focus on
Hmm.
smiting, and it kind of just gives you those first few things. But even something more simple of just one weapon swap, and let's just say you have like this basic sort of training gear on that is all three styles, so you're just really focused on one gear swap plus a spec weapon, and focus on your prayers and stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I think part of it as well comes back to location. If you're thinking like a completely new player,
Hmm.
where do you go to learn PvP? Like, where would you know to go to Ferox to go to the LMS thing? Like, if you, I'm talking like without the wiki, or you're just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
no, you're starting. There's nothing there. Where maybe there's something like you cross the ditch for the first time, and instead of maybe it's even only players that have selected the. I am completely new to this game, or I haven't played in ages. When you go to cross the ditch for the first time, it's like, yo, you should probably learn how to protect yourself, and then just give the indication to go to wherever this like beginner LMS or tutorial PvP thing is, and then that way it's like set up for them so that like as soon as they start interacting with content that would involve PvP, they're already nudged in the right direction.
Yeah, that would actually be brilliant. Even if it was something literally in like Lumbridge or Varrock, just some sort of
Mm,
training grounds. It's very simple. But yeah, you're right. That would be the natural thing is like when you're trying to cross the ditch, like that's where
yeah,
the whole tutorial kind of pops up. So yeah.
yeah. And it sort of like helps with that fear element, right? Like you're crossing the ditch and you're already being told like, you can improve your skills and it's not that hard. Go here. That already probably like would settle a player to be like, oh, I could learn how to
Hmm.
defend myself out here, which would probably be like a really nice feeling for a new player, especially.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, I think that's a brilliant answer. Okay. Coney asks, what are your thoughts on Project Rebalance and the various responses by the community? Also, love the live streams you do with the team. Keep it up, legend.
Oh, that was nice. Thank you. um, Project Rebalance has been really interesting because I've been very much away from Project Rebalance. It's definitely not been an area I have lingered too much in the background. I think that when it was first presented, like I think it was a game jam project when it was first spoken about, and a lot of us in the team were like, "This has got some good parts." There were some parts that we agreed that weren't as good, and they didn't make it into Project Rebalance. Um, like I think there was a cooking thing that was going to be like, um, like Breath of the Wild cooking, where you add different ingredients in and you get different things out of it, depending on what you added to the cooking pot. Um, that was in there, and I think we all felt like that would be too overcomplicated. Food is quite simple. You cook and you eat thing, and that is it. You don't need to like overcomplicate cooking. Uh, so I think it's been really good when they talk like when it was first mentioned about the weaknesses stuff. I was like, I was really excited because like I always love the idea of not needing something to do a boss efficiently or a monster efficiently, but like having the choice to utilize a piece of equipment correctly and take it to a monster and then have that reward you for thinking ahead, basically. Um, so that stuff, I think overall it's like a really healthy thing, Project Rebalance, honestly. Um, Especially the weaknesses stuff. I'm really generally really excited about. That's probably the most excited thing I think I am about the whole rebalance. It just opens so much more to the game, especially the reward space and stuff is really cool.
Yep.
In terms of responses, um, I would say, sort of going back to what I said earlier, is that I think people need to remember that JMods are people. I think there's been quite a few more than passionate responses to Project Rebalance. I don't think they were necessarily like bad like takes, but I definitely think they might have come from not thinking about the wider picture necessarily, or especially just like harping on like the fact that we're ruining the game. And I think the whole like comparison to EOC was like really not warranted at all because it's like so completely different. Like as a meme, yeah, I like get it. EOC in itself is like just a massive meme at this point, but it's also like a ginormous fear for every old school player, both players and us as JMods. Like we never want to do anything that's like EOC.
Yep.
So I think yeah, I just think that some of the responses just sort of negated that fact that I had spoken about earlier. But I think it's all been. I think hopefully most of the feedback has been listened to. Again, I've been quite detached from the project in itself, but I would say that like, just remember we're humans.
Yeah, I think
Please.
it's definitely easy as well, just for somebody that doesn't have the time to overlook every single thing and get a real in-depth look at all this. Is just to say like, can you stop messing with the game already? God damn it, like you've made mistakes in the past. What any game community's made mistakes, but you guys have also done a lot of good. But it's like it's so easy to just kind of just say something really quickly, just overall
Yeah.
negative. Like just stop touching it.
I think especially for something like Project Rebalance, where there is a lot of information, and I think that's like one of the
Yeah.
biggest worries for us, especially recently in CM, is like information overload for players.
Yep.
Because it's not just like Project Rebalance in itself has been massive. There's a lot of information in there that needs to be processed. Obviously, there's been like what I think total like 5 or 6 feedback changes blogs like over the Project Rebalance plethora. And that is also a lot more information on top of the information that is already out there, and it is a lot to process. So I
Yeah.
think it's easy. It is also easy for me to say like maybe chill out with the responses, but I also know that there is probably a lot of information that players have probably unintentionally missed
Yep.
from skipping between different blogs, or like maybe they've had like a couple of days off and they come back to 2 updated blogs and there's so much information in there that's just about so many different elements, and then that gets changed the day after. So like,
Yep.
I don't
It's
envy you lot
yeah.
for having to read and process all of the shit we put in front of you, you
Like
know?
I am definitely in like that top percentage where I'm the one looking at all these blogs, reading them, and even me, like I'll miss some blogs in a row, like almost like 2 or 3 blogs in a row, and I'm like, holy shit, I feel so out of touch with like what's going on, because you can literally just miss a blog that has so much new stuff where the
Hmm.
team is being very transparent of what their intentions are, what they see for the game. And if you miss that and then you start reading 3 blogs later and you're like, what is going on? Like, what's happening? Like, this is just stop, like, slow down. Like, it's so easy for a player to just be like, can you guys just calm down, like, and stop touching
Yeah,
the game?
it's
Yeah.
so interesting because like I feel like we're quite reactive with our feedback changes. Like
Mm-hmm.
when you know, you were saying earlier, I feel like we are in like a really nice spot of being able to be reactive, but then obviously being so reactive has its downsides because again, with something like Project Rebalance, there's so much information being put in front of you that you sometimes might not know where to look. And
Yeah.
I think it's one of the reasons why I started to do the audio reads is because um, it's just another way to process information for players
Yep.
that is not reading. And I think hopefully I'm going to continue to do more of those. I wanted to do some for Project Rebalance, but when they were going out, they just like didn't align with me doing the reads,
Mm-hmm.
which was a shame. But then also they have their own problems because by the time I record an audio read and I edit it, and then we put it into the blog, and then we end up making feedback changes like a day, 2 days later, or whatever. Then that audio read is already outdated and like not void because there's probably information in there that can be carried over, but there's still like a lot of changes. So do I just like yeet that audio read out? Do I keep it in there hidden?
Yeah.
Do I
Yeah.
record a new one? Like
Yep.
yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult. I really wanted to though on this topic. I spoke to Mod Lenny and I would love to have something, especially with all the like client stuff that we talked about in the summit. I would love to have a place in game where you could just pop out the news posts in there and have like a narrative reading, either like automatically created for you or the ones that I've done just there in game for you to read, so you don't have to like come away from what you're doing.
Yep. Yeah, I
Uh,
think, I mean, the blogs overall are really good. I personally love it. I love how much detail there is. It's not generally they're not super. I mean, you guys, even if there's a lot of information, you guys try to kind of condense it, but not leave out anything. And I think you guys do a
mm,
pretty good job. But yeah, for the average player that's just logging in and just not keeping up to date, yeah, I think what you guys are doing, just trying to add more convenience to just for players to be in the know is just important. So
yeah, it's definitely. I'd love to do more like YouTube vids with creators, like the a Coxie one that we did with
yeah,
one of the Project Rebalance one. That was like really good. The Scurrious one as well with Only Trails. That was really really sick. Like,
yep,
but that's also like time, and then like I don't think like paying the content creators is ever a problem. Like we're more than happy to like make sure that like they're getting like good money, what we think at least,
mm-hmm.
for their time and their effort. But it's just like the time is the biggest thing for us
Yep,
is the concern.
totally. Yeah, it's I don't I mean I think your position is really like it's pretty cool to be in, I think, just to kind of like kind of oversee sort of what's happening with Old School because you're clearly passionate about the game, but it's always interesting kind of hearing the inside scoop on like what you guys deal with and how you guys see it. So, um
Yeah, I think that's like going back to the sort of player thing as well. That's always like one of the things I love talking about is like I think there's a lot of players that don't realize how much goes into like some of the work we do. Like I feel like I've joked about this before. Of like not only do I switch off, but I'm in like a constant state of perpetual tiredness. Just because I feel like there's always stuff going on all the time.
yep.
And there's never a dull moment in this job. I don't think there has been a dull moment in like the nearly 4 years I've been. Like, even my first game update was when, I don't know if you remember, but when the spiders in the spiders by the tree in the vampire city. Oh god, all my Blisterwood tree, the Blisterwood tree. There we
Oh
go.
yeah, 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 yeah.
The spiders started spawning vampires that would attack players inside the Blisterwood tree. That was my first ever game update. It was just like everyone was like pissing themselves in the call, like. But yeah, it was like from that moment on, I was like, okay, this is the kind of job this is going to be. Okay.
That's funny. Yeah, I'm excited for the future of the game. I think we're in a pretty good state of the game. I'm very hopeful for a lot of things, and you know, for some players, they see the game as maybe it's changing too much. But you guys were very transparent with today's blog, talking about you guys are really trying to be careful of not, you know, making too many changes, so it just feels like every 2 weeks things are changing. But you do need every here and there, every couple years, to just make a big kind of shift where things get kind of rebalanced a little bit, because there are just so many imbalances in the game, and you guys are being very careful with it. So overall, as a player that, you know, has played a lot, I'm very hopeful for the game and I'm excited about it. So
Good.
yeah, that's I'm optimistic about it. So what are your thoughts? What do you, are you optimistic about the next few years? Like what are you looking forward to? Because you got
I am very optimistic. I think that optimism has just grown over the years as well, which has been really nice. Like obviously I've got to like see a lot of the stuff that we're doing that even we can't speak about to players.
mm-hmm.
And like that has been exciting. Like all the EHC stuff, like that's like internal code, but the client stuff that I spoke about, the Winter Summit,
Mm-hmm.
that has been on the cards for ages. Like I remember conversations happening years ago about all of this, and like finally getting to the point where we're talking about that with players is like just so nice, just to be able to like, oh, another secret not to keep. Oh,
Yeah.
excellent. Um,
Transparency at last. Yeah.
exactly. And like that in itself, that project, like I'm the CM on that like project as a whole, and I am really excited for just like the potential future of like our own client actually finally being in a place where it's hard. I don't think you'll ever compete with RuneLight, because RuneLight, the position it's in now, will always outpace us.
Yeah. It's
And
inevitable.
that's exactly. But I think like the team knows that. Like we know that's an inevitability. So instead of trying to focus on like trying to make it exactly like RuneLight is as present, it's like, right, what's the most important thing for players,
Yeah.
and what is going to make people want to play on our client, like not even more than RuneLight, but what is like the core fundamentals that's going to say like, actually the client isn't that bad compared to RuneLight. It's actually pretty decent. Like it's got all of this. It might not have all the other things that RuneLight has, but at least it's got like, you know, I don't know, the top 25 plugins that RuneLight offers or whatever. But like I'm really excited for that potential, just because it's something that like I don't think players talk about a lot, but it is like game changing for us, because if we can make our client better, it just like feels good, especially
Mm-hmm.
for like the natural experience of a player, because I don't think new players automatically will go to RuneLight, even though everyone will tell them to. And as a JMod, and most JMods use RuneLight, but as a new player, at least being able to come into a client that has like features that can have parity with RuneLight, and especially for mobile, it's like massive for mobile.
Oh
Like
yeah.
having like tons of shit that RuneLight has just for mobile alone is like so good in itself.
It's so
Um,
important nowadays too. There's it's
yeah,
so hard to play vanilla RuneScape now with how much content is basically reliant on these kind of tiles and knowing where you are and just XP
hmm
trackers and just so much now. Yeah, you kind of need it.
yeah,
So,
exactly. But yeah, so even stuff like that, and obviously like the rest of Arlamore, I'm super hyped about. Again, could be a bit biased because I'm CM on that, but
no, I'm
I
excited.
also
It looks great so far, and the fact that there's a part 2 and part 3 coming is just thrilling.
yes, and like part two will be smaller than part one, but we're hoping part three will be a bit more of like a oomph. as part one
Ooh,
was.
oh, I'm
Um,
excited.
Again, I can't say too much because
Yeah,
we haven't got all the things ironed out. But like we purposely made part two smaller than part one because we wanted to make sure we like had the downtime and reflection on what went well and what didn't go well with part one, and
smart.
not try and like get out another 4 pieces of headline content along with like 7 other activities or some stupid thing like that,
Yeah.
like without having that like process time. So yeah, and you guys will get to know about the group boss soon, which will be nice because
Ooh.
I nearly finished writing that blog. So
Okay. I will definitely be up to date and reviewing it. So.
excellent, excellent.
Okay, Mod Sarnie, I want to kind of wrap things up, but beforehand, I want to ask you for a few shout outs from either the community or your team or creators or kind of just whoever in the community, if you have any. I'm just
Oh yeah,
throwing this upon you right now. So for those listening, he didn't get any planning with this.
yeah. No, I didn't. I was like, oh, I could probably be here for hours, like listing out people, but definitely I want to shout out just like the old school team in general, like not just on a professional level, but on a personal level. Everyone is just fucking awesome there. I don't know how much I'm allowed to swear on these things, even like,
Swear all you want. Just you just can't
good.
say the C word. Apparently, I get demonetized for
Yeah,
that. Some.
yeah, we can't do that. We can't be affecting your revenue, bro.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
not. But yeah, honestly, fucking bunch of legends. The old school team, like in general, like I love them all to bits, and they are so passionate and like heartfeltly passionate about this game as well. They want to do right by it, and they're just a bunch of fantastic individuals as well. And speaking of fantastic individuals, my team, CM, every single one of them, I adore. I'm going to include like Sween and Hootie in that because like it's a marketing little, they're still all part of marketing, and like
Hmm.
everyone a part of. Even like Aiza's boss, who's like head of marketing, he's fantastic. Like that whole team is brilliant. I love every single one of them, especially the CM team. Like I adore them so much. Oh, man, I can't even like stress how much I adore them. Um, and then I think just overall, honestly, just like everyone, all the players, like including yourself, Sae Bae, like all the work you do with the modcast, like I'm pretty sure I've like read, oh sorry, not read, I've listened to all of your rambles
Oh
like
God.
since I've started.
I
But it's
appreciate it.
good, right? I just really want to thank like everyone for the transparency they give to us because like it makes my job. I would say even if there is like a shit ton to go through, it makes my job a hell of a lot easier when I know it's coming from a place of like passion and sincerity about health and the well being of the game. Um, and that I can't be more grateful for like such like a passionate community that just wants this game to succeed in the best possible way. So I
Yeah.
just want to say like thank you to everyone for just like continuing the feedback and just giving us like the chance and the trust, I think. And also not just like in us as a team, but me, myself. Like there's been some lovely people over the years, like that just given me like real nice little just boosts of confidence. Which have been really nice. I'm glad I'm able to like return the favors in terms of like vlogs and transparency and that. So yeah, thank you. Like genuinely.
Great shout outs. Uh, Thank you, Mod Sarni, for your time today.
Thank you for inviting me, bro. I'm very
Yeah.
excited.
No, this was absolutely great. This was actually like a really pleasant conversation. So I appreciate your time this evening. Next week, guys, we're gonna have Mod Kieran on. So back to back J Mod cast. Should be a good one. But yeah, Mod Sarni, thank you once again for your time today.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
I appreciate it. All right, guys, we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.